Well, hello to if you are here or you're
Hello.
not. It's going to be a bit late. It's my channel, so be patient when it comes to people chatting. Anyway, so hello to everybody. So we have a crew now. This is like proper crew of people coming in to chat for comics. So we have Earl Grey, Comic Crack, of course, for the love of comics, which is welcome. And Damien, the sleepy reader, 666.
Cheers.
I'm a late one, so I'll do the wine.
Oh,
Monsieur Maurice is here. Hello. Cheers to you. So, like always, we float around the YouTube and decide on Sundays this is the time to talk comics. So we're here. This time, lucky me, I'm going to host a special guest on my channel. So I feel very special thanks to Comic Crack and his wisdom. So for Love of Comics, welcome once again. Would you like to say a couple of words? Or am I putting you on a spot or?
oh wow! Straight off.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot then.
It's like ripping off a band-aid, but it's a great pleasure to be here. I've been following this conversation for a couple of months now, catching up on it when I can't watch it live, and it's just very exciting. And I was just saying before this started that I've been chatting and watching people's channels, and so to be able to talk to you live, it's just fantastic. So thank you so much for hosting me.
Oh,
It's
we're
great
very
to
glad
have
that
you here. I
great
think
to
we're
have
all
you.
fans of your channel.
Absolutely.
It's true. We totally are.
Okay, cool. I'm not sure if my feed is going well or maybe my internet is going cuckoo, but anyway, doesn't matter.
No,
So
you're
yeah.
good. You're good on my side.
Good.
Okay, good. So Forgerelli is here, Mind the Comics is here, Paul DaCosta is here, Comic Board is here. Well, thank you very much, guys, for coming, showing up. Who would like, after putting somebody on the spot, I'm not going to ask him to talk about comics now. So, who of you three boys would like to start first? Come on.
I can do it.
Okay, Damien, or the brave soul. Thank you very much, Mister.
I'm gonna set up my screen share like I usually
Okay.
do. Do you guys find that a good thing to look at, or is it disorienting?
No, it's very good.
perfect.
No, I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah. I
Okay.
love it.
Okay. So,
Okay. There you
this
go.
week I got Echoland's The Raw Cut. I've already raved about Echoland's,
Nice.
particularly the art. And I'm a sucker. And I bought the Raw Cut, which is merely the comic in black and white. So I just thought it'd be fun to look together at the color and the black and white version. I have to say that, I mean, I love Dave Stewart's colors, and he's fantastic with J.H. Williams. But J.H. Williams' black and white artwork holds up by itself, I would say, much better than I thought. In fact, at times I kind of prefer the black and white to the color. Like, for instance, in this panel here, there's so much detail here.
Yeah.
And color just sort of, I mean, the color is wonderful, but I really take in the detail in the black and white and really enjoy that.
Wow.
It's also just interesting to see how they interact. So J.H. Williams is, in a sense, coloring in gray tones already.
Yeah.
So I give Dave Stewart a lot of credit. I mean, I've seen great colors from everywhere, but some of the quality of the colors actually comes from J.H. Williams. I'm now realizing. I mean, I kind of guessed before.
But it's actually really helpful for the colorist.
Very helpful. Although it may create a lot of work for the colorist. I don't know.
Well, we
But,
never know how. It
well, I
works.
guess they can just select different gray tones, and
Yeah.
but the detail of just the wrinkles in her shoulder here, in the shoulder of her blouse or whatever it is. That now I would say maybe I like it. I like the color version of that quite a bit. So I go back and forth. It's silly of me, but I like comparing. Let's see. I mean, this is an incredible page in color or in black and white. So, I mean, just all the detail on these bird-like creatures, or even on here. So at first I thought, well, I'm just being a sucker buying. I'll just try this raw version once, but I don't really need to keep getting it. But now I think I do. I really like it. Maybe I hope they put out deluxe hardback of both versions too. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen or not.
Triple dip, yeah.
Like, look at that that robot face in black and white. Here's in color. Let's see. There's some weird light coming into my house, but yeah. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you guys. I'll keep going. The downside of this raw edition is literally the same comic with the same back matter. And it would have been great if there was back matter talking about the art, the black and white art, and the process between the black and white and the color. But like this face here, and this, and also the angle, everything is exquisite about this art. But in the black and white, I just really notice how exquisitely drawn she is there. And I wonder if sometimes, I mean, of course, I am rereading it now. But sometimes color makes me read a comic faster, if that makes sense. Maybe I slow down a little bit with black and white. Of course, it depends on the artist a lot. But with art like this, like the background in this panel here is so incredible. There's so many figures going on. There even seems to be some person who might be a royal queen type of character there. I don't know how well you guys can see it. So anyway, I'm really enjoying taking in all these different details. Let's see, what did she look like in color? See, in color, I mean, I don't know why I didn't notice this figure here in color, but anyway, so it's really fun.
Did you pick up the second issue as well too, or?
I did.
Because I know that
it is beautiful. Have you been able to get it yet, Terrence?
I haven't grabbed it, no, but I'm on board. I'm like you. I might pick up this as well too, because I love J.H. Williams, period. But this black and white looks really great.
It's expensive, so each version is $5 rather than the usual $4. Yeah, here is issue 2. So I think next month the black and white version will come out. I love this cover. Some kind of monster's holding a blade, and the blade reflects her in it. And we're in issue 2. Well, I'll talk about it anyway. In issue 2, we're getting more background, like on some of her friends and her relationships, while the action continues. I did feel like there were a few hiccups story-wise, like where I was a little confused. Okay, what just happened here? So I do feel like the art is kind of on a higher level than the story, although the story's not bad. But I feel he tops himself on every page. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, is it? He writes himself the story, I presume. Yeah.
He and a co-writer.
Oh, yes,
the same co-writer who worked with him on Batgirl after Greg Rucka left. Someone Hayden. Let's see, it probably says on the cover. W. Hayden Blackman. They like initials. There's J.H. Williams and then W. Hayden Blackman.
Yeah.
And then Dave Stewart with no initials. But, yeah, so now I'm really looking forward to seeing what this will look like in black and white. And one thing I was thinking about, like, often people are rave about artists who are just really fabulous illustrators, but there's something more to J.H. Williams. He's a fabulous illustrator and incredibly inventive and imaginative, but he's also a storyteller visually, and he's always it's the fine art of storytelling. It's not just fine art; it's the fine art of comic storytelling that he gives us, and that makes him extra exciting more than some. I mean, I'm not saying that fine illustrators are a dime a dozen, but there are a lot of people who can draw something just as nice as that. I certainly can't, but I don't think anyone else puts together stories the way he does. So the interesting thing is this page J.H. Williams must have done the color here.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And it
In-
kind of looks like it might have been done in what do you call it when you put a lot of water in acrylics? Is that gouache or I don't know. Anyway,
wow.
something between watercolor and acrylics is what it looks like to me. But I suppose maybe Earl Grey or someone else who teaches art would know better than me. Look at that. That's just incredible. And there was actually a page I was looking at before showing you guys at the bottom was some color by him too.
Yeah.
Oh, there. Like I don't quite know why that is, why he decided to color that himself.
Yeah.
Interesting. And here there's a little color on this witch.
So imagine thankfully he has this artist who knows exactly what he's doing, like the colorist who knows
Right.
exactly
He has
what
his
he's doing.
colors he's worked with very successfully for a long
Yeah,
time.
but imagine somebody else he would have. I mean, it looks like he has a little bit of OCD because if he's all like, I mean, I love what he does. Don't get me wrong. I'm one of the best artists in there, but I don't know if I would like to work for him, to be honest, because I would be daunted because, like at the end
It's
of
a
the day.
big job coloring
Yeah.
wise.
And it seems to be that he's really cares. Like if you even show that page that he actually colored because of the emotional payback for this kind
Right.
of, like if you get it wrong, a lot of things can go wrong to what your eye perceives as well. So maybe that's why he wanted to do it. So
For me personally, this is my least favorite page, actually.
it's
A
quite,
lot of people were wowed by it. It's a double page spread of two jackbooted kind of
yeah.
soldiers getting their heads exploded.
Okay.
But it's not bad or anything, but it has, to me, it's less exciting than the other pages because it doesn't have a continuity kind of thing going on.
Mhm.
And it's, heads exploding, which I'm okay with, but not like my peak experience.
Yeah.
Right. It's like growing up Canada, like the Canadian classic Scanners, where his head blows up.
Yes.
So yeah.
Mhm.
And I know
Yeah.
people who go on and on about how they exploded the heads in that movie and stuff.
Yeah,
Once
yeah.
a long time, real aside, a long time ago, I went to the World Horror Convention, I think it was, or some really big horror convention. And there were whole panels where they talked about the blood splatter patterns in certain movies and stuff. Mostly by, is it Dario something? Argentino.
Argento.
They would talk about the blood splatters in his movies. That's what the panel was about.
Yeah. Amazing.
So
Wow,
anyway,
honestly, looks very-
I think everyone of a certain taste in comic book art needs to get this book, probably in trade for most people.
How do you think is he gonna come out with hardcover? I presume he would. I mean,
I would presume so.
yeah, because this is it's at the end of the day, it looks like he's taking care of like age details. I think he really cares what the how much exposure he's gonna get. But I think it's well worth. For those people who likes hardcovers like myself, I'm not going to be. So I would love to get this one rather than having. I mean, I love it. I love the comic book format in generally for art wise, but this, especially the way he's doing the format, I think in hardcover, that would love. Especially if it's well bounded, of course, hardcover.
It would have to be really good binding because you don't want to lose anything.
Yeah, Gatalos would be killer for this art as well. So
yeah, because every single image is a double page spread.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And it's kind of he must. It also amazed me that it came out 2 months in a row. I mean, obviously he's been working on this for years, but it's a lot of creativity. I would assume this is the kind of art where you would spend a week or two on just these 2 pages, because each panel has more work in it than the average splash page of most current comics.
Right.
So
funny,
anyway,
like,
I feel
when
very
this was on the
excited that
shelf-
this is happening. And that
When it
he's
was
not
on the
working
shelf and
at
people
DC.
started talking about it, it was one of those things that I thought might be kind of, gimmicky or whatever. But once I pulled it off the shelf and started flipping through it, I was surprised how well that landscape format works. I wasn't sure how it would feel, how it would kind of, it just works so incredibly well. I felt, I really enjoyed that first issue. Story wise, and it's enough there to keep me going. We'll see how it goes. But Beautiful looking stuff.
Just a reminder.
Actually, I hope there's story-wise a bit more, because they're saying that they thought about the story and the world for 10 years now, or 15 years, and
Sorry,
somehow
I'm laughing. I didn't mean to be mean, but so far the story feels it's
Yeah.
good, but it doesn't feel like some masterpiece or anything.
absolutely it's Grimm's fairy tale 101.
Yeah.
I feel the Rotkäppchen in German. I don't know in English.
Red
Well,
Riding
it's-
Hood.
It's
The
Red Riding
one
Hood,
of those
yes.
books,
Yeah.
which is a popular thing where you mash up a lot of fairy tales together.
And honestly, I became this book a bit late, and everyone is raving about it and so on. And I thought, hey, no, it's Jesus' second coming, and the art is gorgeous, absolutely. But I expected nothing less of J.H. Williams. But the last third of the book is really just filler material, and I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's a fantastic book, and I really like it. But the fact that you mentioned that this raw cut is having exactly.
Oh, you have
the-
it too. Yeah, that you
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
the
yeah.
same
And-
pointless filler material twice. That's the
Yeah,
real
and
painful
me too.
part.
Me too. I bought the raw cut. It's not there here, but I just flip here in this little book here the whole
Oh.
time.
To answer the
Yeah.
comic board, it is 24 pages of actual
Okay.
story, and then there's
Yeah.
a lot of back matter.
All
So
right.
it's a little pricey, but it doesn't feel too bad for what you get.
They had this. They had the same stuff going on in the Sandman Overture, this Absolute edition here, and they milked the hell out of it. But it's of course.
Oh, they
it's-
put in the black and white after the color.
Yeah. That's the color version, and we have in the back sort of the same stuff. The J.H. Williams III in black and white here, and
Oh.
and what he did already before the colorist.
Yeah, so he does it.
Who was the colorist? I have to look up.
Was that
Um,
Dave Stewart also?
I guess it was Dave Stewart. So here.
I really like those deluxe editions.
Well,
and
I saw
all those
someone
hardcovers.
showing that edition,
Dave Stewart, yeah.
and it had a lot of gutter loss, right? Which is why I didn't buy it. Or am I wrong?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
No.
Oh, look.
No.
Wait. No,
Not
look.
much catalog.
Okay.
No.
So I need to buy it. I didn't buy it because I had the impression it had,
Perfect binding.
had bad
Yeah.
binding. Oh, wow.
Oh, lovely.
Is that the absolute or the deluxe?
That's the absolute. And-
Okay. Maybe it was the deluxe that had bad binding then.
yeah, probably. Yeah, the same thing you have in the back, and yeah, good examples of storytelling. For instance, here, how the reader is guided through this landscape. You can see this.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
all these
Yeah.
the stuff here happens there, and that happens there, and that happens there, and
Right.
I mean,
this is
I
an
really
artist that's always thinking and always creating, not
Yeah.
just with his drawings, but with his
yeah,
storytelling.
with the grid and stuff, how he puts it on the page. It's always a bit different each couple of pages. And it's the same. You can't decide whether you are liking the colored version more or the black and white version. I feel it's the same with Echolands for me. So I have to buy all two versions.
And then you'll have to buy them both in hardback too.
I will be the one. I am actually quite. I wanted to get it. I was like, after you, Damien, first talked about it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna commit to it, but I never did. And now, because of the story, even though I love the art as well, but I think I'm gonna wait for hardcover, because then hopefully, fingers crossed, then I'm gonna be like probably spitting myself to being so angry for not getting it, because I bet this kind of thing will be people's favorite because of art. You know what I mean? Because I think
Yeah.
it's well worth it the way it looks. You know, like the amount of time, especially if you're a fan of his work. So yeah, but I'm still thinking I'm gonna wait.
But I don't think that I will buy the hardcovers. No, I said it.
Oh, really?
No.
Ooh.
That's a radical statement.
Yeah, maybe if the story improves a lot, but I think
we make
it's
a point in this video and then see your channel and it's like, oh, look at me, I got the new
and
hardcover.
always thumbs down.
Yeah.
Liar.
Liar. Pants on fire. Okay, Mr. Crack, would you like to show us something? Maybe share with us your wisdom of comic books.
Yeah, sure. So it's been in the drawers for a long time, and as sometimes happens, I watch videos of people and they'll talk about a book or talk about a creator or something, and it'll remind me that, oh, I have that. I should really actually read it. So everybody's favorite, the Kayfabe guys, they're talked about. They did this. I saw it. Keiji Nakazawa. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correct. So from Edgy Comics, which was a line of sort of pseudo underground stuff. I've got a couple of other things from Edgy Comics. I think one is Food Incorporated, and I think one is Atomic something or other. I can't remember, but there's a line of them, and it's interesting because in the back, at the time when this came out, you could send away for like a teaching guide, and you could send away for multiple copies, and it would be something directed right at teachers for kind of, let's go through the lesson, we'll read this book, we'll talk about some of the passages, and I'd love to see what that teaching guide looked like actually. So Barefoot, and again, I've heard it pronounced Barefoot Gen, and I've heard it pronounced Barefoot Gen. So Edgy Comics did the first 2 volumes of those as well too at the time, and then stopped. And I think I can't remember who picked it up, if it was Kitchen Sink or Last Gasp. I can't remember who picked it up after that. But so it's this creator living through Hiroshima and kind of everything that happened and things that he experienced. And then it also talks about kind of his journey to becoming a mangaka or manga creator there. His father was really into art, and he kind of takes it up after. It's a hell of a story, and I think one of the things that I love about this, I was talking to somebody online, Chris, Chaos and Comics, and we were talking briefly about manga and how a lot of it is black and white. I personally haven't seen a ton when it was issued here in color. The color in this one, I think, really adds to the whole kind of story. It almost feels like not quite a children's story. That's a little too unfair to say, but I think it really adds something to the overall story to draw you in, especially knowing the context of what they were potentially trying to release this as. And it's also the way he deals with the actual bombing. We'll just get there. Is incredible stuff. Not like, look at the faces there are just gorgeous. The use of black on their faces. And just the way he breaks down that whole moment. He was standing in front of a wall that kind of saved him from a lot of the power and the blast and the heat. He got injured, but when he kind of comes to after being blinded, he shows kind of what he would have seen. And I mean, you know that this is kind of like comic language for it, as they were saying, even in their video, even in the Kayfabe video, they were talking about this, but just this idea and how he kind of presented this, it's still kind of grisly, you know what I mean? Like, you really do get a sense, and it really gives you a taste of, I cannot even imagine what that would have been like, and comes back to his house to see it's collapsed, and sees one of his neighbors, that's kind of been hit by a bunch of broken glass, talking about the house falling on his parents, and it just kind of goes from there. So that his mother survives, she gives birth to a baby. She was pregnant, so after the blast, she gave birth, and just kind of what goes on there. I don't want to go too much into the aftermath. I think that the whole arc of this and how one of his drives for creating manga and creating comics and things was to just, you know, he dedicated a lot of his time to this story and this part of his life, and he really wanted to use his voice in that way. let's see, I think it was right near the end. Yeah, I'll draw cartoons about the atomic bomb. Damn it, I'll fight it and destroy it through cartoons, and I'll show the ones who started the war, the ones who used us as their playthings. So it just becomes this real drive for him as an artist, where he kind of has this mission. I'm not sure how many volumes Barefoot Gen went. I want to say like 9 or 10 volumes, possibly. I'm sure someone here will know much better than I will. But it really, I guess he did a first story about it in Shonen Jump, and then did this version, and then did the Barefoot Gen stuff. Really puts me in the mind to want to read that series, though. I like I said, I love his style. I think it's really, really nice looking stuff. So yeah, this is one of those that pops up every once in a while. I see it, and I'm glad that I finally sat with it this week to give it a shot. So I highly recommend it if you don't know it or if you're curious about it.
I really like the style of work in there, especially the grief-stricken faces are really nicely shown to us. Like it just, that's what manga really does. Even though it's simplistic art, but the emotional part, they really knows how to do it, and you get into that kind of part of it like really well, and a lot of grief most of the time. And they happy, of course, is like. There was some manga I was reading, they had those like speech bubble above them, and they just like, those emoji kind of type of the way expression is. Like, why would you do it? But your facial expressions already say that a lot, but they just because, like, why not kind of thing. So that was hilarious for me. But yeah, that looks great. So yeah, very nice. I don't see those kind of stuff, unfortunately. It's like, I'll show you a couple of things which I pick up, which was amazing for me. I was like jumping from happiness. My husband was thinking I'm absolutely weird what's going on with me. But yeah, I'll share that with you when I have a chance. And Earl Grey, would you like to share something as well?
Yeah. I just wanted to talk briefly again about Monster by Naoki Urasawa. And just because I got so different comments on my video about the series. It's 9 volumes of this thickness, around about 400 pages each. So it's a long saga, and goes on and on and on, and with different twists and turns, and is always exciting. And you wonder what comes next. It's about this neurosurgeon guy, Kenzo Tenma, who decides one day to operate a little boy instead of the major of Düsseldorf. This whole setup is in Germany, which is somehow of a certain interest for me. And here you have our now Kenzo Tenma guy, very, very young, very blunt in a way, which is a nice touch when you compare him. In the latest volumes, he has really aged and is a bit roughened up by the sequence of events that took place. But he decides to operate and to save this little boy, who turns out to be later on a serial killer. And so he has a big problem. So he saved the serial killer instead of the major, and he ruined his own career by doing that, because he was supposed to, of course, save the life of the major instead of the boy. And and afterwards he is the prime suspect of the police for several of the murders of that serial killer, Johann. And so it's a huge crime epic, and you really, whether you say you have to be willing to go along with the ride, because some stuff in the story is really not realistic in terms of how long you can survive in Germany, for example, without being caught by the police. And when you not disguise yourself, for instance. And there is a lot of other nitpicking stuff, like nobody would call their kids Adolf, for an example, after 45. And there is some kid called Adolf or some character in the series, and he picked Johann as most common name for his serial killer, a usual name. But Johann, I mean, I don't know any except all these compositors for music, classic music. They're called Johann Bach, Johann Strauss, and so on. And is there a Bach? No. But yeah,
you
but
know
they're
too
way
much.
back. How much?
You know too much. You know more than the writers.
Yeah. It's
a handicap.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, and I pointed even out some scene where one of the characters poked in his ear and blew his earwax away. But that's not. We have greasy earwax. Our earwax is. Our fingertips are yellow when our digging was successful, and
never seen anyone do that.
That was just one scene, and there are some stuff, and the atmosphere in Germany always he puts in these postcard scenes of some here maybe. We have our character in the front and some stuff he took from, I don't know, some catalog or how to live in Germany. I guess he was in Germany and did some photos. However, what I really found fascinating after doing the video was our old man Logan there. And I mean, there was... In the comment section, there was really the reaction. This is a masterwork, and to the opposite side, it was total crap. And somehow, I think every one of the comments has his points, and there you can be pretty much turned off, especially by the end of the story. I don't want to spoil anything, but. A scene like that can't happen in Germany at all. No way. And it's really just a mere mind game of the author. I went with it and enjoyed it. It was fun, but you just have to accepting that. And so the whole variety of probable comments and opinions about this comic showed up, and they all have their points, and they're all right in their own way, and I found
that's
that
kind of neat.
Yeah,
you've got a
somehow.
real discussion going in your comments.
So is this monster more like? I mean, I'm gonna be making it like is it like Frankenstein story in a way, because he's creating this? I mean, I know Frankenstein is a different thing.
Yeah.
You're creating the monster in the perception, but is it like idea of it?
And
kind of
the interesting thing is there is some sort of Frankenstein created here, but it's more a psychological stuff. It's a bit in the serial killing boy and his sister. There was in the former Czechoslovakia, story-wise, not really, but in the former Czechoslovakia, there was a home for children, and they tried to create monsters out of them, human weapons, if you will.
Wow.
So they try to erase their emotions and make them superior. All these Übermensch stuff that the Nazis were fond of, and to a certain degree. You had some of this heartless upbringing of children in the former communist states as well. In Romania, there were homes for children that unbelievable surroundings, and how these kids survive is beyond your comprehension. And the story brings that together and tightens all the stuff up, and and out comes this Uber serial killing guy called Johann, and he's very intelligent and he plays with the humans that he meets, and he's able to bring them in a state in just some moments that they want to make suicide. And this is not really a spoiler because it's really very early in the story. And so, you can doubt that one man has the power about other people, that they get suicide, make suicide just after a minute with talking with you. But
Jeez.
yeah, geez.
Wow.
But it's really, it has all this stuff around 1989, fall of the Berlin Wall before and later on, and this really a realistic backdrop. And so there's a lot of stuff that really is on point. And in terms of the German society with all these neo-Nazi douchebags and so on, who try to make out of Johann their new Hitler in a way. But this isn't so nonsensical as I say it right now. It feels uncomfortable and like it should.
So I presume the story doesn't have a good ending?
Oh, I don't tell you. That's something you have to find
come
out
on.
for yourself.
9 volumes? Do you expect me to read 405 page 9 volumes?
I read all these. I started with this and bought 3 volumes and read it, and then I had to put it down and started with volume 1 some months later, because there are so many characters you have to read it in a short amount of time. And but these 9 volumes, I read them in a week, and it's I was really on drugs. So and it's
Rasa, you could just buy the last volume.
Yeah, I think so.
But the last volume,
oh, spoiler alert! I know the beginning. You already told me whatever it is. Synopsis is there. Let's just know what's happening at the end right now.
But it's actually a lot of story here, and some colored pages as well, and throughout.
Ragamuffin says there's an anime of 74 episodes.
Yeah.
I wonder if it has the same ending.
Probably because I've heard the same points of critique that I had towards the manga about the anime, but I really don't watch anime, so
maybe I should go that route, because I am a fan of anime.
Yeah,
so.
maybe I mean,
it's honestly, it's like it sounds fascinating to know exactly, because especially when you have a serial killer as a main kind of like character at the end of the storyline. So I wonder how you end that, because I don't think you should end it in a very good fashion, but never know what the writer wants to from the story to have. So
he's some said he's just a bland, unbelievable character, but I would say he really has some facets to him, this Johann guy. So he's really, as far as serial killers can be ambiguous, he is a bit ambiguous, quite. Alone his,
Oh, sorry. No, you finish your.
No. Yeah. There wasn't actually no sentence.
I was just going to say, is people being talked into committing suicide a theme in manga? Because the only manga I read this past month, it was Lovesick by Junji Ito. It was all about people committing suicide because of someone telling them to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a handsome, dreamy boy who told them to do it.
Yeah.
Which
is even easier to convince somebody as well, especially if you're dreamy.
Yes.
There's this way of talking and teaching people, but I forgot the way, what is it called, when people actually basically by just speech can convince you, by like marry somebody, convince to have children or something like that. It's just that I forgot that.
Hypnotherapy?
No, it's not hypnotherapy either. It's kind of like I forgot the name. Oh, it's gonna bother me now. Anyway, I always do like points I have to make, and I never have.
So it's not like
the right words.
Mesmerizing people or something like that. It's some
no. You actually basically like we having conversations, but behind whatever you think they actually talking to you in normal sentence is actually idea planting
right,
in
like
your
power
head.
of suggestion kind of thing.
Yeah, power suggestion, exactly, that kind of thing. So yeah, and then there's one of my friends who actually quite clever in that sense. His job is to basically talk people into things what they're afraid of to do, but they actually be able to do it. So it's funny, but it's kind of works because there's not me, but there is one other friend of ours who he has conversation, and he convinced that person to basically what he was afraid of, cars. He convinced the person to sit in the car just by having, and they had conversation like almost like about the beer. They were talking about beer because he likes to drink. Like they had drinks together and they had this conversation. And then after that conversation, we were like, okay, we're gonna go for a car drive. And he's like, no, he doesn't like cars. Like you can't put him in the car. He screams like a girl almost like that. And then he went, he opened the door. The guy opened the door. He sat in the car without not flinching. I was like, what the hell happened? So I don't know. I'm just saying.
You'll know I figured out how to do this when suddenly all of Earl Grey and Comic Cracks comics arrive at my door.
All the convincing again.
We have a thing that in film the props people, they have this thing they call the Jedi mind trick, and it's something that they do to directors all the time. A couple of the guys have told me about it, where they'll have like two versions of one item they'll show, and then when they show the one they actually want to use, they'll do a slight nod, and they're like 99% of the time the one they do the slight nod is the one that the director picks. So it's this kind of Jedi mind trick that they pull on people.
That could apply to a lot of situations.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
My wife's been doing that on me for years.
Yeah, so it's actually quite fascinating when you start going to the brain side and how much unfamiliarity we have as what's sticking for us. What's really driving us forward is actually quite fascinating. Anyway, on that note, maybe for the love of comics, would you like to share something? You need your microphone. Yeah, you muted. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, I'm always worried about background noise. Sorry about that. I have a couple of things, but I wanted to I got my bona fides because I have just very recently this as well as some Jeff Darrow. So I was just like,
Nice.
hey guys, thanks for having me on the call. But and I think some months ago, I read a volume of Torpedo, again, because of one of Earl Grey's videos, and that was the only volume I could find. And when I was talking about that on my channel, there were a couple of people who were like, oh, I prefer Alex Sinner. And I hadn't heard of Alex Sinner, but the only context it got pulled up in is like some months later, I see another Earl Grey video on Munoz. And so I'm just like, well, there must be some sort of a comparison. So that's why I haven't read a lot of this. This is volume 2 from IDW's Eurocomics imprint. So it's the second half of the Sinner stories. So this is the second half of it. So I guess the first volume, because they're in chronological order. And this says that these are from 1988 to 2000.
But it shouldn't be any problem to read it. Yeah.
That's what I figured, because I've only read the first. I read the first story, Nicaragua. And I mean, there are a couple of times, even, I don't know if that's only in this edition or it's always, but it's particular for this edition, where they just have an asterisk and they say, this happened in that adventure in the first volume, so there'll be like a recurring character or something like that. But it's absolutely, the story I read was absolutely self-contained. I mean, you get the feeling that it's, but I was really interested in the art. But I was the one story that I've read from this, I was also very impressed with the writing. It's one of those things where it's a lot more complex and a lot more meaty. So this is I mean, you've seen the art of this and it's been shown, but I could completely see all the conversations about Eduardo Risso or Frank Miller. But I've seen something like this in a number of different people's early work, which makes me think about how influential this must be. And I was thinking about some of the early comics from Gabriel Ba and Fabio Moon,
Yep.
the Brazilian brothers, and then even Jason, the Norwegian artist. If there's some stuff in one of his books, Pocket Full of Rain, his early stuff before he started drawing in animals, and both of them seem to have a lot of this figure work, which I find fascinating. It's just it's not what can you say? It's not realistic, but it seems extremely like you get a complete sense of the people, the place, the atmosphere. It's very interesting to me, I think, when people talk about fidelity, because I think people always talk about like how the face has to look like a face and the hand has to look like a hand, and there are some parts of this that are just, I mean, virtually abstract. I mean, there's a puppet show in here which is particularly sort of nightmarish.
Yep.
But it's also very, very overtly political commentary. And that's the whole sort of point of it. And the interesting thing was, of this story, a big part of it is this puppet show. So you've got this story, you've got these characters, you've got this thing going on, kidnapping, and then you just have this puppet show go on for like a whole bunch of pages commenting on political situation and what's happened in Nicaragua and the US, kind of things in it, just in the middle of the story, and then you come out of the puppet show and go on. And I thought it was interesting that the story ended with, the last panel of the story is now of course I can't find it, but this was a puppet show by Munoz and Sampaio. It sort of brought back that puppet show thing as an end credit for the I found it. I don't know if it's coming.
Doesn't really focus.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
With the writer and the artist, sort of. So that gave the whole thing another angle of some sort of a political statement, which is what I was surprised by having at, what I thought was going to be a crime noir investigation thing. It was the level of the conversation about politics and Reagan era New York and those kind of things. And it's not concentrated. It doesn't go on and on. It's just, you just hear these fragments and then you move on with the scene. And even the dialogue between the characters is very fragmented. You'll come in the middle of a conversation and leave in the middle of a conversation, and then you'll have the middle of a television broadcast or a radio broadcast or something come in and out. So it was a very interesting approach to telling the story that I really enjoyed in this. So thank you very much for the recommendation. I'm glad I could find this. I don't know if, because I couldn't find volume 1, but I figured that they were all standalone stories.
Yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, I think I have volume 1, but I've never read it. I need to dig it up.
Oh,
That's
Just flipped through it and then added it to the pile somewhere.
Ooh. The pile should be.
I mean, I should ask if is Nicaragua representative of how most of the stories are, or is it like just a kind of, because I know when I'm reading, I don't know, something like Corto Maltese, there'll be some stories that are very abstract and very experimental and not at all. And then there'll be others that are quite realistic, and they're all the same characters in the same world, but the tone and the nature of the stories seem to fluctuate. So I was curious about whether that sort of level of abstraction or that approach is the case for all the stories, or it's just a one-off.
I actually can't tell you, because I've just read 400 pages of Alex Sinner, which I always thought that this is all of Alex Sinner, and but then somebody told me, no, it's not. You are losing out at least 300 pages of stuff. So I had to quite recently, and I haven't read this yet. So Nicaragua, I don't know about that story, but there is a lot of abstraction going on in the José Munoz stories or Sampaio stories, and society plays always a big role. I feel their main interest is actually to make a point about situations in the society and about corporations and how people are paid and all that stuff, and the crime stuff is just the vehicle to transport you through these hidden messages, but they're not really shoved in your face. They're just there and really enjoyable. And sometimes you have people in the front and in some awkward situation, which is a commentary on society. And for instance, street workers in some bad situations, and the real characters are in the background talking to each other. So a lot of abstractions, which comes of course with Munoz art style and this expressive art style that is just fantastic. Yeah. My humble opinion.
One of my most favorite kind of more recent crime movies, Killing Them Softly, with the one and only Brad Pitt. It's a George Higgins story that they made into a movie, and he does that. They do that really well there too, where there's kind of this background of Barack Obama getting elected, and kind of what you were saying. It's these conversations that's steeped in this crime and killing people and stuff, but there's all this kind of background that's going on that it brings a whole new dimension to the story, even though it's playing off of stuff that you're seeing classically, like one of the characters gets shot up and killed, and it's this slow motion, kind of these throwback and callbacks to these classic kind of crime and gangster movies. But this background of Barack Obama, because you can hear his speeches at times throughout the movie, and it just kind of adds this extra layer to it. And they're talking about getting paid and how much you're going to get paid, and these kind of higher ups in this sort of corporate style gangster arm, I guess, right? Like it works fantastically. It's a great idea. If I wasn't sold already, I'm definitely sold even more now on this Alex Sinner for sure.
Yeah, I am the one as well. We've been looking around to see what kind of Alex Sinner I can get hold of as well in here around it, because I'm curious now, because Earl Grey's influence in really good, our brainwashing really working, It's like all the videos lately, it's like I'll show you some of the things I got. So I guess it's my turn to have a go. Wish me luck. And then so
good luck.
Good luck.
Hey, that looks familiar.
Yeah, well, because last week we had me and Damon were, and Res Reeds were talking about in the video, and of course we were talking about watching the Jeff Darrow on Twitter, the video of the interview
on
on
kayfabe,
on kayfabe, and when he mentioned Shaolin Cowboy, it's like, okay, there you go. And then Slippery Damon, you mentioned that you're gonna read some a little bit, and I was like, of course I'm gonna have to go at least start flipping through them, because there's not really that much of reading matter at the end of the day. Right. And just to show you, so this is the issue number 1, and there's number 2. I took it out just to show the covers because they are beautiful. Number 3, this is the best one of them. Then number 4, and there's 7. So I'm gonna finish soon. Another one.
I love that shark stuff.
Yeah, and he's just having a munch. That's the last issue of.
You're the one who turned me on to Shaolin Cowboy. You did a video about that first series. Way at the beginning of your channel, I think.
Yeah, I even have an official sticker because I had to.
Burly Man.
Yeah, so this is the company. It's basically owned by Wachowski brothers, who were publishing this Shaolin Cowboy for Jeff Darrow. And when I found out first about them, it was very difficult to get hold of. It's not easy to get hold of. I don't think there was a huge printing run of this, but it's highly recommended because if you are a fan of Jeff Darrow, you definitely try to sort after. Maybe it's in the hardcovers now or printed. I don't know if there is, but in this format,
I think it's
really
in print from Dark Horse now.
Oh, is
in,
it? So
in hardcover or maybe just paperback. I have the hardcover, but I don't know if they stayed in print.
yeah, because this is a really good, like print wise, it's like a nice
Really
stock
nice
cover.
paper.
Yeah, nice stock paper, and inside is fantastic as well. And then it starts really in the desert, and you see this lizard, and it's just like your speech bubble is click, click, click all over the page, of course, and you see all this crazy detail. And then this action happens, and of course, there's these three dudes just dies, basically. And then we find out that the culprit is our Shaolin cowboy on this horse, and very graphic as always. And the person who actually first to speak is the horse. He is the one who's actually having commentary. So it's really good. I mean, it's just an action, and it's just craziness. And then this horse is talking how he sold his parakeet into a place where he hopes that parakeet will end up being a nugget, a chicken nugget, so a chicken factory basically. And then he's really afraid that this parakeet is going to come after him and fly into his ass. That's this commentary throughout this couple of pages. And then you have this crazy. So at first you see Shaolin cowboy is in trouble. There's these people after him, and then you think, okay, that's plenty of art, and like you see how much people like really pissed off with our Shaolin cowboy. But you flip another page, there's more of them, and there's so much more detail. There's these characters. This guy is particularly boner, just down there, just there.
Not
Yeah, just off the one. Then you have another page you flip through. There's a car, there's cats, dogs, and and then another page you flip through, and then you have a condom as a balloon, just to make sure, is represented well. And it's just crazy characters our Geof Darrow can able to come up with. Imagination wise is crazy. And then there's another page. The guy is apparently there's a waiting list so big that there's even a loop, waiting for to get his attention. And then this one of the like the action about to begin, and this Shaolin cowboy doing his tricks, and in here they're saying, "Are you trying to be like a crazy Asian flying around without cables?" And then there's another scene where basically this guy says, okay, it's enough of your gimmicks. I have a big gun here. I'm the one who's going to basically murderize you. But as you can see in here, from a couple of sweep moves, our Shaolin cowboy gets rid of part of his neck, and his head is chopped off, which is absolutely crazy. But that's what you should expect from the Shaolin cowboy anyway. I think Shaolin cowboy is barely even speaks much in here, like one or two speech bubbles. But this is not about that. It's more about this craziness of maybe a violence a little bit, but it's just funny. He has moments of really fantastic parts, like this one, especially where the monkey of her owner, the head next to it, decides to, and she says, safety off, shell and chamber, aim, hold, breath, squeeze, don't pull trigger. But instead, what happens? The horse with his hoof just shoves it straight away, and then he just fly off instead of shooting our main character. So it's absolutely bonkers, but it's spectacular to look at what Geof Darrow can come up with, and what kind of craziness he ensues our main character. And this crab here is very vital in this storyline as well, because it's coming up, and even the newly released Dark Horse Shaolin cowboy stories. So this guy is coming up, and there's another. I always try to look for this, because it's created by Geof Darrow and Steve Skrois. I don't know how it's pronounced his name, but I was never able to find it. So Doc Frankenstein, it seems to be even more difficult to get hold of than this Shaolin cowboy is. But yeah, absolutely. If you guys who haven't explored this part of the world of Geof Darrow, please, this is one of the things which is really entertaining. It's nothing, as I say, if you like action and a lot of kind of like slicing of bodies and blood splatters. Maybe it's thing for you. Even I'm not the biggest fan, but I just cannot stop looking because of the amount of detail this Jeff Darrow is able to show us on a piece of page. And I know it's crazy. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yes, those the ones that the issues are really
I don't
good.
like gore, and yet I like it in Jeff Darrow.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that effect on me.
So he
It doesn't
in
feel
the
sadistic somehow in him. It just seems like he's fascinated with craziness.
yeah, exactly. And he was like in an interview, he was talking about this chainsaw scenes. You know, I just like the way the chainsaw moves around. You know, that's what I wanted to portray in the piece of paper. Like, wow, really? Is it the movement you enjoy or the body's chopping around? Because the show, there's one of those hardcovers you showed. That's one of those scenes, the biggest scenes where, yeah. Well, let me. There you go.
My favorite scene here.
Yeah.
Which one is that from? The third one?
There's no. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's the latest one, isn't it? I think so.
Cool Stop the Rain.
Yeah, all that orange face is getting his chopped off some things. Anyway, so yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And he was mentioning about this colorist, so Peter Doherty, who was coloring this original one, and he even said that he had to sack him because I'm slow, but dude, you are even slower. So
It
like,
just took
I can't
longer
do
than
this.
he did to draw.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so
It was
that-
very good coloring, though.
Yeah, it's
I think I like
spectacular.
it best of all the colorists who've worked on the series.
Yeah, and it's really like you can see the difference kind of thing when you know like who really takes meticulous sense. But also there's on the back cover in here you have our Shaolin Cowboy, and it says in here, photos taken 3 days before Shaolin Cowboy was asked to leave the Shaolin Temple. So it's not really
And I don't know
wanted.
if that's in the book, the hardback.
Oh really?
I'm
Oh,
not
that's
sure.
kind
I
of
can't remember.
because
So,
I think he's even having
don't,
that in each issue.
Each issue a different photo.
Yeah,
on the back.
yeah.
Don't
Go on.
dig too deep for that Doc Frankenstein. I was picking up that Shaolin Cowboy when it was coming out,
Uh-huh.
and they had on the shelf that Doc Frankenstein as well.
Yeah.
Don't be tempted too much by the Darrow name. It's from what I
Oh.
remember, it's not his art in there. It might have been a character and kind of created by him and a team. But I remember flipping through it when it was
Okay.
coming out, and I never picked up an issue. So just don't want to get you in a eBay kind of kick and be disappointed.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
Steve
happens.
Scotchy did that We Stand on Guard book. I don't know if you saw that, or Maestros. So he's come back to comics recently. He was a storyboard artist.
Oh, okay.
I think he may be better now than he was when he did the Frankenstein book.
Mr. Earl Grey, your influence is continuously frustrating people. Especially when it comes to English versions. Yeah, that's
Especially for Girelli, who has to have a huge library of sorts. I mean, it's
People
difficult.
should have to show their credit rating before they watch Earl Grey videos to make sure they can afford it.
just one more Shaolin back matter. He's appearing in Vatican City, apparently, and he says, photo taken of Shaolin Cowboy 3 days before he was asked to leave the Pope William Robert I Vatican Guard. So yeah, he's been everywhere. You know, very experienced
Kicked
cowboy.
out of everywhere, I think.
Yeah, well, you know, like you gain your experience and go. You know, like
He's
Yeah,
got
but
good timing as far as when he should get photographed, though.
yeah, of course, exactly. All the
Just in-
most important moments. You know, like just
Just
make
in
sure.
time, and then
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
Forrest Gump that way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's fantastic. Anyway, yeah, one of the best things of Jeff Darrow for me. I mean, I Big Eye is as well fantastic because it's Frank Miller's work with him and together. And I read it. I have it in hardcover as well, and I absolutely love looking at it every single time as well. So who's next?
Forgerelli 1 is saying that Earl Grey may have cost him at least $2,000 over the years, but let's put it another way. Earl Grey has helped you invest your money in the right place over the years.
Yeah.
And
Actually,
you should be
for-
thanking him and perhaps giving him a small cut.
Yeah.
Do you know Forgerelli was the guy who gave me all the Love and Rockets books?
So he paid his dues,
so
yes?
he paid
Has
it all,
paid, yes.
more than enough, I
Okay.
would say.
Well, I salute you, Forgerelli, for your being a good customer.
So
All right. So, Mr. Sleeper, on that note, it's your turn,
Okay.
isn't it?
Well, everything's about the kayfabe interviews lately. After their Frank Quitely interview, I pulled a book off the shelf that I had actually never looked at, that I had sitting around for years.
Wow,
the Graphic
Graphic
Ink DC Comics art of Frank Quitely. And after I started looking through it, I realized why I had sort of put it on the shelf. And the binding is horrible.
Oh,
It is horrible.
tight.
And like on a page like this, someone's face is literally gone, and most of their body in the binding.
are you sure that this is not some case of the glue, that they use too much glue and that it
You need to crack
stuck
open a bit.
on the spine because of that?
I don't know. Because it's not going to focus well enough.
Yeah. This
I had the exact same problem with the only other graphic ink I bought, which was of Darwin Cook. And they had all these double page spreads of his work, and it would cut things right off.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Oh.
So and I have a lot of bad experience with DC, where there'll be bad binding. It includes a lot of covers and then a lot of stories by him throughout his years at DC. One, you know what? Let me try the overhead or the document camera. Switch me out.
Okay, there you go.
So maybe I was not reading much DC at this time. There's a lot of stuff that looks like underground comics being done at DC. Excuse me. Like here is a visit with a hanging judge, and it's just a guy's memories of when he used to be able to hang criminals. And there's even like a diagram of the wrong way and the right way to hang people, and advice on how high up to have the rope.
Oh, that's great.
If you have the rope too high up, if you have too long of a drop, the head will actually be cut off.
Oosh.
And anyway, it's kind of, I don't know what DC Comics was doing. I missed all of this.
Well, I was just going to say, are you sure that it's all stuff published by DC? Because I had thought that it was kind of a collection of, he also was putting some stuff in there that was from his self-published, because he was doing the kind of underground stuff. I could be wrong about that. I could have
It is
misunderstood
listed as
that.
the DC art of Frank Quitely. And,
Right.
And let's see,
Flex Mentalo is DC, yeah.
It comes from something called the Big Book of Death from 1995. Maybe it was Vertigo.
Okay. Right. Yeah, there was a whole big book of series, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because he contributed to a lot of them. The Big Book of Freaks, the Big Book of Weirdos. He did a Salvador Dali piece. Let's see. So I haven't read everything in here, but after hearing him talk about his process and everything, it becomes extra interesting to read these things. I did wish there had been more process art in here or something, since it's supposedly an art book. It's really just covers and then some stories, some of which might be obscure, but not all of them. I don't recall what this one is from, but it's something he did with Grant Morrison called New Toys, in which, and I feel like I've read another comic book recently that maybe it stole this idea from this, or maybe the other way around. But anyway, it's about the story of this toy soldier and the battles he's in. And it's interesting, it being Grant Morrison that there's kind of a cross-dressing thing going on here. And you know how people will like dress up their G.I. Joes or what have you
As a Barbie.
in the Barbie costumes or something. Or when I was a kid, there were neighbors who would you go to their house and there were all these naked G.I. Joes and naked Barbies together. But then the other G.I. Joes consider him a deserter or something, and they shoot him.
Wow.
It's just an odd story. It doesn't really go anywhere, and I'm spoiling it. I'm sorry, because I don't really understand the ending. In the final scene, there appear to be aliens or bugs in this little girl's room,
Oh my God.
but I don't even know if the G.I. Joes and the soldiers were ever in her room, because in the first scene, or maybe she finds this one G.I. Joe and puts him with her Barbie. Anyway, it's interesting, and you know, a lot of different. One thing he works on a lot is a lot of different angles, each drawn perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another gutter loss. There's Kyle Rayner. His head is gone.
Oh, bye, Carl.
Maybe I should jab around and see if I can loosen the glue or something. But,
Yeah.
and then this is a bizarre one. I think it was written by someone named Ilya, and it's about a man who has an or a erotic fixation on concrete.
Oh, that's
Again, not what I was expecting from DC Comics. So he gets arrested and he has sessions with this therapist, and we follow the therapist's attempt at making progress with him, and so it's just kind of a one joke, a joke kind of thing, and the therapist has made progress with him. He now makes love to statues at museums.
Oh, wow.
And then I took a look at this. He spent a lot of time in the interview talking about how he was chosen to replace Mobius to do this Sandman story. And I've never read Sandman Endless Nights. I guess it passed me by during some time when I wasn't paying attention. So there's his cover for it. And he talked about how he never, this was one of the projects he spent the most amount of time on,
Yeah,
if I'm
because
remembering the interview correctly.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, sorry, were you saying something, Earl?
Just 8 pages or so.
Right, just
Yeah.
a few pages, 8 pages
Yeah.
or 7 or 8 pages. And it's very minimalistic. So I found that interesting that this is what he spent the most time on, or one of the projects he spent enormous amounts of time on. And each page has a main image and then a secondary image. And they're mostly surrounded by a lot of blank space. So I'm just imagining him like drawing a pair of hands carrying a big book over and over and over again until he gets it the way he likes it or something.
A bit of OCD there.
Yeah, I mean it's beautifully illustrated. It's kind of a nothing. It's not a story, right? It's just a little moment with Destiny, the character Destiny, sort of showing us a little bit of what his existence is like. This is probably my favorite image here. Anyway, I don't really like. I loved the Jeff Darrow interview. I don't think, and I liked the Frank Quietly interview. I don't think I really understand Frank Quietly. Like I clearly don't understand what his process is that it takes him so long to produce a page like this. It's a very nice looking page, but in my sort of experience reading comics, it doesn't strike me as one that would take a really long time.
Well, he had to cut.
It was just the preparation side of it, wasn't it? From what I remember,
Yeah,
thumbnails and different angles and different ways to tell the story. He seems really hung up on kind of like how to tell the story. And,
Right. Did he tell a
yeah,
story
that's
about
something
Grant Morrison suggesting he just do two sketches and not 5 or
Do
6
it, yeah.
sketches for every
Yeah.
moment?
Yeah.
And then
The other thing that was funny about that interview was talking about kind of his blank background sometimes in some of his work. I found it amazing that he was sitting in front of just a white wall. You know, all these other people that kind of sit in front of their library and their studio and stuff.
Right.
He's just a white wall behind him. I thought was pretty great. That's a beautiful looking story though.
It's incredibly beautiful. I feel like Neil Gaiman was not trying his hardest. It's more like a little. I mean, I haven't read the whole series, but it seems like just a little coffee table book kind of thing here. And this is an interesting choice here, where he really went all out with the gore in this particular picture and the flies. I don't know what instruction Neil Gaiman gave him. I guess it's like a donkey or a horse or something with hooves, but I can't even tell.
Well,
I guess-
again, I think considering that it was originally for Mobius, I seem to remember him saying something that there wasn't a ton there. I mean, I can't imagine that,
Yeah, it
you're
was
going
very
to
spared.
Right, because they
Mobius
knew
writing very
Mobius was kind of
detailed,
sick.
Here's
Right?
what I want. Yeah.
They knew Mobius
Yeah.
couldn't do much because he was already quite sick.
Yeah.
But despite and maybe the pressure of being the person filling in for Mobius also caused him to take a long time.
I would be like shivering hands every single
Yeah.
time if you have to take somebody else's work.
And this is his own coloring done with watercolors, as he
Yeah.
said, and he clearly
Loved it.
He chooses a very light palette, which I really appreciate.
Because the
I was-
watercolor, if you use it too much, it just becomes very muddy.
That's true.
Yeah. So.
But I mean, look at the cover here. It's so dark. Plus, as I've stared at this cover more and more, it struck me more and more at how odd and perverted it looks.
Yep. It does.
There's this
To me,
Batman
at
who
least.
just looks like a weirdo, and he needs a shave really badly. And this expression on Robin's face is just kind of almost like someone who's gone through a really horrible experience, and he's spreading his legs. It's a very odd picture to put on your cover of your DC Comics art book.
Scott Connors always have something to make you laugh. Eh?
What's Scott saying? Batman and Throbbing, yes. But then the interior has the hardback part has really nice covers with much lighter, both on the front and the back. Excuse me. And there's a
Oh, that's
really
cool.
goofy one of this is Plastic Man's son named Offspring. So I'll have to read more of this. This I can see would take a really long time to do with the
That's
universe
beautiful.
kind of coming out of this book.
That's very nice.
I guess he felt the pressure to be as a stand-in for Möbius. That
Yeah,
Right.
I think so. It just influenced
So
him probably.
You can't take it lightly.
Right. And I don't think he was when he did this. I don't think he was nearly as famous as he is now. I mean, I'm not really sure of the trajectory of his fame. But let's see the date. This is from 2003. I mean, now he's quite a big star, and it's an event whenever he does a comic again. But so
What I really found interesting was the part with the All-Star Superman that he colored directly from the pencils.
yeah, I
it
didn't
was-
realize that. And he very gently hinted he was not happy with the coloring on that.
Yeah, gently,
And-
like.
I kind of agree with him. I think his art looks better with a lighter hand on the coloring.
She feels more pronounced.
Probably.
I had always assumed, because All-Star Superman's like my favorite DC comic, essentially. And I had always assumed it was colored the way he wanted, but and that there was something wrong with my taste in coloring. But now I feel vindicated that he also wishes the coloring.
And they were pointing out about his like really tiny lines. So he uses really like small pencil when it comes to line work.
Right.
So I think if you overly like darkness, those lines are disappearing. So sometimes it feels like there's nothing left of it. So I think in that sense as well, color brings a big factor in his art. So
And it almost seems to me the colorist wants to kind of add some heft and weightiness to his pictures.
yeah,
But I think there's something about his line work, like in this, there's a faint floor in the background, but the actual positioning of his characters and the way he draws them gives a sense of sort of gravity and the world around him, that there's a floor underneath them and a world around them. And it almost detracts from that effect by having the colorist try to add too much weightiness to that world.
Or as he puts it, the subtle colors of Glasgow,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
found.
Because
Mostly
Very-
gray and foggy or something.
Yeah,
yeah.
the different shades of gray. Yeah, Glasgow.
The person on the right really looks like Michael Jackson. I'm sorry, but I can't stop thinking.
Here or
No, on the,
on the right.
the guy
yeah,
on the
it
right.
does look like Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So this is a very imperfect book, but I'm still kind of glad I have it, I guess, now that I've been looking through it more. It's also sad that a lot of what they print in here is some Batman stories, because I have them elsewhere. I mean, it's very easy to find his Batman stories.
Mhm.
I have them in omnibuses of the
Batman.
Grant Morrison run and in other places.
Mhm.
I ordered this little book from that Scottish publisher they mentioned in the end of the interview. It's not here yet, but I'm pretty curious. Has to be a small.
I forget
book.
what is that. What is that the nature of that?
Frank Whiteley drawings and sketches or something
That
Oh,
would be
yeah,
great
yeah,
to
yeah.
see.
from
Yeah.
Big Heart Books or so.
Yeah.
BHH or so.
Yeah, the publishers from the Glasgow.
It's still available. So and
Yeah.
I'm
That's nice because there's nothing, no sketches, no preliminaries, no thumbnails, nothing in here.
Ooh, Jonah
that's-
Hex.
yeah.
That looks good.
Boy, when you really draw Jonah Hex in detail, it's really troubling.
But it does look crazy.
I don't know how he drinks water.
through a straw.
Yeah.
And this is an incredible picture. I have not
Yeah.
read these books of magic
Mm.
that were with covers by him. I don't know if he did any interiors or not.
Wow. Yeah, looks. Yeah, these artists. I got influence as well. I bought one of the Frank Whiteley's work stuff from X-Men because I'm an X-Men fan. I haven't finished reading it, but just because like you see in the interview, we get influenced by them as well, as you can see. So I bought his Grant Morrison X-Men run with him and Frank Whiteley. So because I wanted to check it out to see how his works as well. Like I think I had it in single or some of it in singles, but I saw this cover for cheap, and I decided to just get it.
It's interesting that, I mean, a lot of his art is also what is not there as opposed to what is there. And it's just interesting to me how that he takes so painfully long to do it. And of course, that be also amazing that he had any kind of career in commercial comics like DC, because that whole industry depends on people producing work fast.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's more of the kayfabe influence. Although I already have what kayfabe are talking about, and I'm always like, damn, I didn't make a video about that before them.
That's the book I was talking about. It's just like in English, I guess, productions of Marvel stuff collected. So it's this great way. I found it on eBay for £5, and I couldn't resist hardcover. And it has spectacular art in here. I'll show you to you quickly. That's the some of the stuff. I'll show you the one of the when you see Sentinels chopped, beautiful
Incredible.
looking stuff. So and then there's more Wolverine stuff. So yeah, this is something I will be reading just to get a feel of that as well. Influence like we speak about. Mr. Comic Crack, is that your turn now, eh? Yes, I think so.
Cool. I don't know if everybody watched Klaus Janson today. They talked to him. They had an interview with Klaus Janson. It's fantastic. It's really, really great. Something I never thought that I would read. I went to one of the stores where I have, 3 or 4 books on a pull list. He had some dollar bins out. So I found a couple of Kull the Conqueror in the dollar bins. And I figured, what the hell, I'll give him a shot. Never would have guessed that I would have picked him up. So this was, I guess, from volume 2, which is just the 2 issues. And then I got a couple from volume 3 as well, which I'm curious about this story. Not a boatload of stuff to say, other than out of all of them, I think that this issue was probably my favorite. It had more of a kind of a Thorgal vibe to it, as far as there's this, like there's werewolves in there. There's this sense of kind of magic and wizardry and stuff like this, plus this adventure. So it's Doug Mensch is the scripter, John Bolton doing the art, and also doing the color with Christy Scheel. Yeah, I mean, I won't go kind of page through page or whatever of the story, but not a lot that I know about the characters, so I was kind of at a loss in that way. But this story really got me. I really enjoyed this a lot more than I ever thought that I would. And I think, like I said, it's because of that kind of monstrous element in it. One of the things that I found through all of these is so far, and again, please keep in mind, I've only read 3 issues. The female characters don't fare very well in any of these stories, which honestly was kind of disappointing. That was the one thing that I kind of thought was shitty. This relationship between him and this woman in this particular story, I thought it was handled really, really well. And it just kind of goes south. And then reading another issue where none of the women kind of survive very long. I don't know, man, that would definitely be one of the things that would turn me off if that kind of theme keeps coming up.
It's kind of a pattern in Conan type stories, unfortunately.
Right, hey? Yeah. But this one kind of, it goes even further, and it's just great. Again, like when the werewolves, so let me find one particular shot here. When the werewolves come into play, his lost love who's died transforms into a werewolf, and is sort of like these sort of almost zombies. Just killer, just really great.
Right.
Bolton is fantastic. I don't know, I just know Bolton mostly from kind of Eclipse comics and things is where most of my experience with him is. So that was fun. This series it feels like it would have a tone, some beautiful painted covers here. These ones I'm really curious to see where they go. So this one is John Buscema penciler, and then Klaus Janson, speaking of Klaus, as inker, with some fantastic, like as soon as you open it, you're hit with that. The coloring is gorgeous on there. Colorist is Klaus doing color as well too. So that's a really beautiful and a great angle, and that light coming through the grating and stuff. We're kind of under in the hull, I guess, of the ship. And you can see Klaus all over this, for sure. You can see his sense of his style there. So from what I gather, Kull is now a king. He was a barbarian. There's a lot of kind of politics in these 2 issues, and it's him kind of navigating through the world of kind of coming from just, I'm used to just beating the shit out of people, and I'm used to just killing people, and trying to, and now he's in this position where he can kind of have a little bit of influence, and is trying to, one of the stories in this one, he's trying to stop, because he was a slave as well, and he wants to free all the slaves of these warships. And basically, once he does it, he gets into the politics side of it. It gets basically like voted down. He's outnumbered, so he's kind of grappling a little bit with this idea of his part in this kind of process, and he can't just kind of make a statement and make this immediate change. And because it happens also in issue 4 as well. There's a plague that's happening in issue 4, and I love this kind of coming next. So this one is a bunch of short stories, and Sienkiewicz does a story in here too. Charles Vess does some art. There's the credits. There's all the credits there. So the same kind of thing is happening here, where it's this talk of politics and his place within it and his frustration with it. I'm incredibly curious to see how this, because I think this volume was only 10 or 12 issues. There's Charles Vess. Was only 10 or 12 issues. I want to know if they kind of pursue that line and where that eventually ends up, because one of the stories is talking about the king before him and what a horrible, horrible person he was. and some of the people that Cull is now currently kind of friends with, I guess, well, not friends, I guess, but they're within his kind of inner circle. They also served under him and did his bidding. So he kind of has this moment of, you know, how could you do his bidding? And they're basically like, hey, it's just part of the deal. It's what we signed up for. We want a little bit of this power. We're here to serve kind of whoever's ruling us at the time, right? So I like that idea, and so I'd love to see if they explore that more fully. I'll just go to the Sienkiewicz piece here, and right off the bat, you know, there's your intro to Cthulhu's tale, and there's your Sienkiewicz there. Couldn't be more obvious, and really kind of stand out from the rest of the book, right? And it's not as, the rest of it isn't as overt as that first page, but there's still some touches. So yeah, it kind of a fun book, to be honest. Like I said, that first one, that issue number 2, was my favorite of the bunch. But I am kind of curious. I know that there was an omnibus that came out recently, but I think it collects all of the black and white stuff as opposed to any of this stuff. So
yeah, they haven't collected that stuff yet.
Sorry, I said that. Damien?
You're right. They have not collected the color stuff yet.
Okay.
Which may be the better stuff.
Right.
That all looks so cool.
Yeah, this is
still these kind of books so depend on if you have a good artist or, you know, an appropriate artist for them.
Absolutely. And you know, a dollar bin also helps that.
Sweet.
As well. So I'm hopeful that I can find some more for cheap. Yeah, it just says
the FBC's asking if
artist.
Sienkiewicz was the inker. Was he both the penciler and inker, right? He did everything.
Assuming so. It just has him listed as artist, so I get the feeling he did everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. My little dip into Cull the Conqueror for those 3 issues there.
I think Cull was never as popular as Conan because of the politics.
Right. It wasn't because of the politics. Is that what you said?
I think so. I think it was a little more complicated of a concept. You know, the barbarian trying to deal with the civilized quote, civilized politics. Whereas Conan just, you know, slays a monster and then moves on to some other city or something.
Right. Well, I mean, that's promising then. If they do dive into that, then I'll definitely keep an eye out because I'm curious how they handle that.
Great. Mr. Earl Grey.
Yeah, I guess that's because of Anschumann, aka For the Love of Comics. I don't know if you have this book in particular, but I guess you showed off these essentials one time.
Yeah.
And then they were half price or so available over here, and I got some of them for bonus price, cheaper price. And yeah, and then and again I read some of them, and this here was pretty fascinating. The Bungle Family by one Harry J. Toothill. And what these books do in general are collect 1 year of newspaper strips in this format, so that you have each day on 1 page, which is very nice. And it's somehow, you have the right format because they're big enough, and it's just nice. And what makes this book here in particular interesting is that they are really not nice, these Bungle family characters. George Bungle and his wife Josephine. And boy, was I remembered of the petty quarrels of my own family. And maybe sometimes as bourgeois as we are all, even with my wife and our neighbors, I don't know. But for the most part, actually, it's easier to point at others, so uncles and aunts and so on. But it's this is 90 years ago, from the 1930, this year here, and yeah, they look what what did the neighbor said? What did he do? And I couldn't really hear it. And so, and who was loud last night over there? And there's a whole part in the beginning of the book about a rich relative, or they hope he's a relative. They have some guy by Pontoon Bungle is somewhere mentioned in the newspaper, and he's a Wiener millionaire. He made a fortune out of hot dogs. And so our George always looking for some rich relatives that he can be the inheritor, grab the money of this relative. And he looked for that. So that didn't really reminded me of my family, to be honest with you, but it's pretty because we didn't have some relative of that sort. But yeah, all these pity characters, or how they poke their finger in the wounds of their relatives because they know how they react like this and exactly like that. It's really a fun read and very, charming is the wrong word. It's introduced you to read the whole stuff. And even though you can see huge parts of text, it really takes some time to get even through one strip of one day. But it really captures this day-by-day vibe, really captures how long they stay on one topic. This neighbor did this. How could he dare? And the next day, they have different clothings, and you can really see for the character, it's another day, but they haven't changed the subject at all. It's still there nagging on that neighbor and stuff like that. And then we have their daughter coming home, or no, the unworthy lover of their daughter, and that's the next problem for the two Bungles. It has this scratchy art, far away from being perfect, absolutely far away, especially when you look at the details, but it totally works to deliver what he wanted to tell us there. So, yeah.
How do you store that book? Because it's a very nice format, but how do you?
One of the lucky moments in my... maybe I can show you this without being interrupted here. Maybe not. Do you see there's this...
skull?
Yeah, the skull. And over there you
look
see...
at that.
And
it's
they
special.
just fit in that size here. And it was really by accident. I bought these 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 books, and they just all 7 of them fit there really nicely, and that was fantastic.
It's like you knew.
Yeah, that's extraordinarily lucky. But one interesting thing about these editions is I think I read somewhere is someone was collecting these strips as they came out, and then they just had all of them bound together for the year. So it just ended up being a perfect format for these books. But the way that these work is if you stack them one on top of the other, you get a big landscape format book. So you can actually put 2 of them onto a regular bookshelf as long as it's deep enough, but it works. So that's the way I have I think 4 of them.
I watched your video about that.
They're great editions. They're just 1 year though. They kind of whet your appetite, and then you've got to go out and find, it's but I think the format of it and reading it in that strip form is so crucial. It's such an important thing that I love the fact most people will not take the production to put only 1 strip on a page. It's just the cost effectiveness, gets in the way. But it's such a lovely way to read those daily strips. But yeah, I think I have them next to regular books, and they just stacked up very well. and then the spines also look good. But yeah, it's something like Crazy Cat. I'm a big Crazy Cat fan, and that I was getting all the Fantagraphics paperbacks, and now they've started releasing them in hardcover. But even then, even though I have those Crazy Cat strips in those larger volumes, I still got that volume of Crazy Cat, and it's a different experience almost. When you read 4 strips on one page, even if they're on the same theme, and then you actually have to turn the page, and it's kind of like, okay, it's a new day, or it's a new day for me as a newspaper reader, but the story is
I like
still
that.
there, and it's still going to pick up over there. It's quite unusual, and I love the fact. I wish more daily strips were put out in this LOAC, the Library of American Comics format.
Yeah.
Was there only one Crazy Cat volume? Because I have it,
Yeah.
and I thought there was more. I was hoping to find them.
I think, I'm not sure, but I think the way that these books are is that they only have one volume per series to just 1 year.
Just
of
representative. I see.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So it's just 1 year of Crazy Cat, 1 year of Bungle, 1 year of. So I haven't seen a single second volume of any of them.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. Well, so makes it make sense more when it takes you in that time or moment. Somebody opened the newspaper, was reading a strip, and you get that, like what you're concentrating on, and now you have this volume, which looks fantastic. And I'm glad that they continued, like you say, it's crazy that people actually managed to just put the book like that, because you don't see this often. Like they get to the point where you want people to feel how it used to be, in that sense. So.
And actually, there was this moment. I watched Terrence's video before, and you spoke about 400 Blows, which is, you spoke about 400 Blows, which is a very important movie for me, especially the whole circle of movies. And this aspect of it never happens again then. And when you read this book here, under this aspect of there was this guy totally forgotten for the most part of the rest of the world, and he put these these lines down there for this newspaper, and never would have thought about it that 90 years later, there would be still an interest for it, and you can still see each line of that he did way back then. It's. I guess you know what I'm saying.
It's time travel.
Yeah, it's time travel. Yeah.
It's our way to time travel.
And that's, I think, the Sunday reprints of the broadsheet things from 1905, the Little Nemo, Winsor McCay, and those kind of comics. I mean, that's another thing, because you think, it's just oversized. We like oversized stuff. Everything is bigger, but it really is. In fact, I would say Little Nemo is virtually unreadable, in any other format. You have to have it that size. And even then the words don't matter. But you think about what it must have been like on Sunday, you open that newspaper, and this is back when newspapers in America were really big. And then you're reading all this fine print and all these stories, and you turn the page, and then you have this tree, and the tree is the size of the entire page of the newspaper. You get that. It is quite time travel. It's like I'm back there, because of this particular broadsheet edition.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like this stuff conveys also something of the psychology of the era that we can't really touch so easily in other ways, but through these images and the way they're telling their little stories, we see how they're the same, but also how they thought about things a little differently from us.
Right. For the Love Comics, do you still have something to share, or?
Yeah, I had a but I was actually going to, but you said that because I read for the first time The Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot. I'm a big fan of Shaolin Cowboy, and and this was this was something that I'd heard a lot about, but I'd never gotten an opportunity to read it. And this is, I'm sure, I don't know if people are familiar. It's essentially a kaiju monster. Wait, hold on. There we go. a kaiju
Yeah, yeah.
monster attacking story, Japan, but
Mhm.
it is a mashup of so many different things. So there's Astro Boy, obviously,
Mhm.
which is the
Yeah.
Rusty, and
Yeah.
then there is the American mech, and then there is this monster, but it's also sort of summoned from, so it's kind of like a hellspawn Lovecraftian type of monster. It's an
Mhm.
but it's mainly for the Jeff Darrow art. Obviously, it's like every single page, every single panel, the way that we're used to with Jeff Darrow. And I was thinking about, because I think it's detail, the level of detail, obviously, but I was thinking about why his violence is so appealing to me, whereas
Yeah.
it's not always it's not always that it's appealing to me, and I think it was mentioned about gore. I mean, I'm the same way. I'm not a big fan of extreme levels of gore, but then I'll either watch something or I'll read something that has extreme levels of gore, and I'll be like, that's not too bad. But why? What makes one thing great and the other
Yeah,
thing
that's a
not
good
great?
question.
I'm always, like stuff like this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
And
I feel in a
it's-
way he's a surrealist of a sort. And so it doesn't have the same effect, even though it's very realistic looking.
Mm. But
I
then
mean,
he
I'm
said
sure there's
me.
something to do with the line weight. I think the fact that
Mhm.
it's sort of democratic, or it doesn't. It feels like he's paying equal attention to the musculature of the monster as he is to the wheels on the truck, as he is to that brick. Like there's no priority. So it seems like it's like whatever there is, it's there. And of course there's a priority because he's an artist, he's choosing what he puts in there, but it feels to the reader as if
Yeah.
everything is being given to you. And so therefore no one thing, I mean, we choose that, okay, this is at the center of the frame, so therefore that's the main thing. But I mean, anything could be the main thing. And I really like, I agree with that that tongue-in-cheek humor. That's why I like Shaolin Cowboy. And I think
Yeah.
the with this book, the only thing that what let me down, I think not let me down, but I didn't maybe I didn't appreciate the writing as much. There was a lot packed in there because I think it's like a sort of Valentine to 1950s monster movies because of that kind of narration and people giving you commentary. It's obviously got influences of it's making references to Japanese monster movies, Japanese robot stuff. So it's a lot of different references, and I think the main inversion plot wise is that there's a monster that attacks Japan, and then Japan's Astro Boy robot goes out and is defeated, and the Americans have to come in and save the Japanese. And that's sort of a twist on those Japanese movies in which the Japanese have to come to the rescue of the rest of the world because of certain monsters, and it's their monster or it's their technology or it's their robot. So it's kind of an inversion, but then you need so much familiarity from the reader to understand that you're making a joke or you're trying to invert it. Otherwise it just comes across as like the American cavalry coming in to save the thing, which I don't know. It didn't seem enough of a satire, and it didn't seem enough of a joke. I mean, that's just an example, but it's like there's a lot of exposition, and I understand that 1950s Hollywood monster movies, science fiction, Japanese, tech kind of things. All of these are very heavy on exposition. Like someone will say, without this crystal, we can't have, they just spell it out for you what's going on. And there's all of that exposition, but I don't over here, unlike Shaolin Cowboy, I didn't necessarily get the tongue-in-cheek part of it, but the action is superb. The mayhem is fantastic. It's like a slim book that you can spend hours going through, I think.
Yeah.
But in spite of it being packed with all of this stuff, it left me, because I think this story is just 2 issues. And the first issue is the monster, and then Rusty gets beaten up, and the second issue is the big guy appears and fixes the problem. But the thing that they tease, which is these two together, never actually happens. You have Rusty by himself and the big guy by himself, and then there's this kind of hint at the end is that, oh, I'll be worthy, and Rusty wants to work with the big guy, and the big guy goes off to another mission, and it almost seems like a prelude to what the book would be about, which is the adventures of the big guy and Rusty the robot. At least that was my expectations, is that I'm going to watch these two guys work together or play off of each other, but their two huge battles take place completely separately, and then it feels like it's a pilot to launching a new series or something like that. Which
I wonder what was in their minds originally, if they expected to only do those 2 issues.
I think
Wasn't
there's
it
a
mentioned?
TV show.
Yes, and I've never been able to find it. It's I've seen clips of it, and it's clearly for little kids.
Okay.
But I have not seen a whole episode or seen where you can get the whole series.
Well, I think it's important to know this is not a kid's, I guess teenagers can read it, but a lot of innocent people die in the collateral damage to, it's not as gory or as outright, but when the monsters, the buildings it's kind of like those DC superhero movies, you're just you're seeing the disaster, so you can see all the trains blow up. So there's, and then people are getting digested by acid and melting and stuff like that. So there are a couple of those images. So this doesn't come across. So that was another thing. It's just this is neither absolutely aware and smart enough to be only for adults, nor is it for kids. It's somewhere in the middle where I think it's for grown-ups who want to be nostalgic, but at the same time get their mayhem and their violence as well. So it's kind of a combination of both things. But Jeff Darrow's art is just superb. I think one thing I thought about is I was watching something about special effects and visual effects, and they were talking about the one reason why certain visual effects never look as good as practical effects is because when you have an explosion, and even if it's a model, every single thing that breaks, you show it, the camera captures it. But in visual effects, you would have to take each piece and program it and then give it physics and to say you fly in this arc, and most of the time you can't. So you'll do that for a couple of big pieces, and the rest of it will just be, so you're only going to render some bits of it, and that's why it looks fake to our eyes and a match, like a balsa wood thing. And I think that's why Jeff Darrow stuff looks so impactful, is that all the particles are there. There's no prioritization of only this is going to be CGI. It feels like a practical explosion because you see the glass and the brick and the all of the material is sort of fragmented in front of your eyes, and you can see all the pieces of it. So you're like, that must have been a full window because I can see every single piece of the broken window, and I think that's what creates the appeal for me.
Well, that's why it's so fascinating for me, the amount of detail that guy can put in a piece of paper. And he even thinks himself, in an interview when he was talking about, it's I have to do it. It doesn't there's this. You just details, if it's missing out, it's gonna bug him in his head, so he has to do it. So it's just that part of him, which is great for us. Who likes his art, especially, it's because every single time I look through this, I can open it up and then probably see something I missed because there's so much detail in your eye just can't capture while you're concentrating on some things, whatever it's your main focus on that page is. So
he said something in the interview by himself that when he colors his own stuff, that he didn't remember what's that fag over there? Did I drew that? What's that stuff? Because he such an animal when he's drawing, seemingly.
Yeah.
So but and as to big guy. Maybe I misunderstood it, but wasn't it hinted that the script from Frank Miller was just one page for the whole book?
Oh,
was that for Hardboiled or for
for the big boy and Rusty, the big guy?
Yeah.
But then Frank Miller must have put more script in after the drawings were done.
They probably
I thought
gave
that
him.
was the case too from
Because
that
there's a
interview.
lot of writing in there at points.
Yeah.
And also
there's a
that
lot of
Rusty,
writing.
the boy robot, wasn't originally part of the story. And one of them, I can't remember which one, had suggested it, and the other hated the idea or something from remembering that interview. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for
Well, I think,
completists,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you,
I was just a footnote for completists, there's an issue of Dark Horse Presents from, I think, the last time they did a volume of it, with Rusty and Big Boy on the cover, and there's a short story in there by Darrow by himself, and it's at on the beach, and it just shows all the weird people on this horrible beach, and in the background, Rusty and Big Boy are fighting a monster in the ocean. So it's much closer to Shaolin Cowboy in its nuttiness.
yeah, that's his touch. Yeah. We put so much detail in there's a scene
It's
in
like
the
the most
background.
horrible beach I would never want to go to.
But I think there were big guy stories without Rusty earlier. I think there were
Oh, were
backups
there?
to
Oh,
something.
okay.
Yeah, I forget it. And it's something. And funnily, I think it's something that you guys were discussing, but now I can't remember it. It's what were their backup stories to? They were in some issues, and then Rusty got added later. So it's sort of prototypical. And I again, from what I've just read online, I think there are big guy cameos in a couple of different comics as well. In fact, I think big guy cameos in the last volume of Sin City. Frank Miller has him in there. I don't remember him being there. Maybe he's an action figure, but yeah, I think there is a different in the story. I felt there was a disconnect between these two mechanical things. You know, I wanted them to sort of come together in a different way, and maybe it was planned as a longer series or something like that. But also that they spend so much time on the exposition of every single thing. Whereas, you know, you could just give the page and you would have all of that and not lose anything and just have mayhem, you know, and then a little office or whatever, control center, and then again mayhem, and it would have been. I think it would have been perfect with about 1/3 of the words in there. Do you think that it was like drawn and then Frank Miller filled in the words into spaces left for him, or something
Don't
like
know.
that?
Don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that integrated as if it's flowing forward. It's just sort of an exercise in some ways. So I wouldn't be surprised if all of the words came after the art had already been determined. It feels
that's
that way,
quite
at least.
almost
Probably.
like a Stan Lee stuff when he used to do as well with Jack Kirby as well in the same kind of similar fashion. You know, you do the pages, I'll just put something afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe Miller discovered that Darrow ignored his script anyway on Hardboiled.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, I think he's mentioned something like that as well. Yeah. Anyway, okay, that's me. So, so I'll show you finally. We went to charity shop and I found some like comic related things. And I was like really excited because, as I said, haven't done that for a while, and I have never don't go that many times in shops because of the situation stuff. But anyway, so but one thing I found, which is I've never seen nor have discovered, and it's called a Comics Review. This magazine is fairly ongoing for years now. I'm not much familiar with it. So this is again collections of Sunday strips. And it collects Tarzan, the Crazy Cat, the Phantom, the Sir Bagby, Rick O'Shea, all sorts of like, it's plenty of material. But of course, because I see the cover and our Comic Crack influence, what it displays, which I wasn't really familiar with, and nor I was able to find something. And this cost me like measly £2, which is like, oh my God. And original price for this is $20, I think, when it came out. Can't find it, the price. Anyway, so it has, in this one, it has a complete story of Tarzan, an old format. So all most of it is in black and white. And then you're mentioning the Crazy Cat strip, which is I have it here, and this one is from 1935 to June to July, so the whole month's worth of Crazy Cat. And there's this like crazy story, of course, because it's Crazy Cat, and they talk about they have his kettle. So first the kettle is there. It's like why watching it? So it would boil. Don't let that kettle boil over. It can't, because there's no fire. So stuff like this little things, then tantrums they're talking about. So it's crazy. Also, and of course it has Modesty Blaise, which I really was the most because I knew it, because of the mentionings of the cracks. So, and it has in this kind of weird, I guess. Was she in a newspaper strip as well? Because in here you have Modesty Blaise all time mentioned, and then there's this story continues, but it's completely mentioning in that box, which is kind of weird.
I think she was a British comic strip.
Yeah, it is British
in
comic
the UK.
strip.
I mean, in the US, but in the UK, maybe it was in newspapers.
Yeah. Anyway, so and it's just like just one page, the Artisto, and it already grabbed me. I definitely want to get hold of more Modesty Blaise, because what I've just read, just in a couple of like whatever I managed to basically scroll through and read, I already got fascinated. It's just a simple story of her escaping because this Mr. Wu, I think he's the bad guy in here, he's going after her because he's pissed off because she's always basically a thorn in his back, and he's looking after her, and she's trying to escape, and then there's just simple things like that, kind of like which I really like. It's almost like James Bondy to type of it stuff, or all the detective part of it, and it looks beautiful, even though in black and white. So I'm really like glad I was able to like find it, even though I wasn't aware this is, and it's still printed to this day, because I looked it up in a couple of the people who's like you can buy it from, like for example in here Forbidden Planet has it, and they keep on producing that. So this one is from 2014. So yeah, it was crazy, as I say, to find something like that, because I've never seen it before, nor I looked at it, even I was in the comic shop before. But it's really good to basically, like Gasoline Alley, because you have a little bit of the coloring in here you find. So something to discover, something new, which I'd never really honestly, or like old age phantom story in here. So something completely new, and like something different, for example, for me, or like I've never heard about Alley-Oop, I think this is what it's called. And then it's about like Caesar times, or the way they looked at it is that, and also is in the color in the same thing in this format. So yeah.
He was a time traveling caveman.
Oh, is he? Okay, well, and then Mandrake the Magician, the like really old tales you have in here. So yeah, it's something like completely for me. And even here, like they are advertising collected editions of Modesty Blaise. So yeah, this is something. And of course, I saw this one. It's because it's a special. I of course I don't buy those specials from any publishers, but it was a Sandman one, and I was like, it's Jack Kirby, and it has of course the originals of Jack Kirby at the back, right at the back, which you have is because this is special for 100 years, where he would be turning to 100 years old. So they have this couple of stories of his, but I read this beginning story, and this beginning story is written by Jurgens, I think, and it's a story about Sandman. Of course, the Sandman is has the dreams, and he's discovering that there's one kid who has crazy dreams. He needs to be saved because all the dreams he's dreaming it will come in fruition. And those two helpers of Sandman, Glob and Brute, they were kind of hilarious. But it's kind of, honestly, it was very entertaining because right at the end, the actual child they were talking about is where is that last page? Where are you? No, wait. I'm flipping through more than I should. Oh, there you go. It says it's Jacob Kurtzman, which if you know Jack Kirby's his actual real name. So Jack Kirby was the kid they were trying to save.
Yeah.
So it's really good, to be honest. I was special things never really kind of gets the measure of things. Like sometimes they like kind of cheesy in a way, but that kind of the touch of actual him and the ability to draw those like stories in those characters who comes to fruition. And the person who helped was actual hero. He imagined himself too, so he was helping himself already. So Sandman was there to be helped by that imaginary creation of the dreams of Jack Kirby, basically. So it was fantastic, to be honest. Little thing for £1. It's definitely really worth it. I wish I could be able to find stuff like that for cheap, but it doesn't happen very often because where I live, we don't have really comic book shops around. So those boxes doesn't appear. You have to travel, which I don't tend to these days because of the situations and stuff like that. Don't want to smell dirty people.
There's
The
the
Modesty Blaze.
Go on.
sorry, go ahead for Love Comics. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say these are the new reprints from Titan, aren't they?
Yeah.
With the new covers.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah.
It's that almost square format. Titan's been bringing them out, and I'm a big Modesty Blaze comics fan, but that's also because
Me
they
as well.
were published. Yes, those are the ones that starting
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, that's volume 1 right
Yeah.
there. I
Yeah.
love those comics, but they were in the newspapers even in India. And
Wow.
this
Wow.
is way back in the day, so it was unlike anything else you saw in the newspapers. So for us, growing up at that time, you had things like Peanuts and the more familiar sort of Hagar the Horrible comic strips, and then you had something which was slick and edgy, and it had violence in it, and she wasn't afraid to be naked. And this is back in the day when they would put nudity in a newspaper comic, even in India, which is unbelievable today. So for me, there's that sort of like, that was the first like grown-up comic I ever became aware of. But then when I revisited it, I thought, it's going to be nostalgic, and maybe I'll remember. And then I was like, man, these are good comics. They're very slick. They're very tightly written and edited.
Yeah.
The characters are brilliant. That sort of central platonic relationship between
Two of them.
her and her
Yeah.
henchman is
Yeah.
terrific. It's very good. Like, it's better James Bond than a lot of James Bond I've seen.
Yeah, I wish they would actually be brave enough and actually have a female as a James Bond, but that never will happen.
Well, yeah, I think they should
Never.
just make Modesty Blaze. They should just, you don't have to make a female James Bond if you just
Yeah.
do a proper
Yeah.
Modesty Blaze adaptation.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, I think so. There are a couple of things in it. I think actually it's kind of modern still, because she does use her sexuality and stuff like that in situations, but it's never exploitative, and she's always so much in control, and then it usually ends with people getting stabbed. So it's all good. Yeah, I think not a lot of stuff from that time holds up today when you look at it, and I think I was surprised at how much it holds up. Like, you need to make some adaptations to it, a few, but not as many as you'd think, because they did a really good job writing a good. Peter O'Donnell, did like a terrific job with that character. So yeah, I think if you get into it, you'll find it to be quite rewarding.
Oh,
Well, and
no,
also
no.
knowing you, Rasa,
Yeah.
over the years, I think you'll love it. It's
Well-
right up there for me as well too. Like, some of the situations she puts herself into, and just wait for my signal. You'll know when. Like, it's fantastic. Like, she's a really, really great character, and the stories are, like anything, it goes in waves. But for the most part, what I've read so far, I really, really enjoy. I think you'll really dig it, Rasa.
Well, that's the thing. I only read just like, as I say, one page, and I was already into it. It's like, I was wanting to read more, but because like you get distracted by things, whatever you do anyway. But yeah, it captured me straight away. It's just the way, I don't know, maybe the art, the way they represent her straight away from the get-go. It's just the demeanor. You already feel that she's very confident female, which is, for me, great. Because you don't see that many females represented in comic books. This kind of like so self-confident and able to do whatever she wants to do and whoever she wants to do it. Like that's just gem for me, especially if it's detective
she's
part
a
or
badass.
yeah, and if it's that, just have that kind of theme of it, it's just, yeah, that definitely would be, I need to get into it for sure, because, well, this is basically gonna push forward, because it seems to be is already, I just needed to sample this kind of material.
That's
for me
just
to get excited.
that's a great anthology. I was just looking at just those are some fantastic comics, and it's interesting how they've gone across history. But I would love to find an anthology like that to learn about. But
Yeah.
like that Crazy Cat over there, I think is a good example
Mm-hmm.
because I think that particular I'm trying to remember but I think you said that was from like the 1930s, right? Or
Yeah, it's
1935.
1935 June to July 20th, 1935.
Right. And that whole gag over there, is
Yeah.
just like, oh, there's this pot and I want it to boil. It's just
Yeah.
like it's playing off of that thing of like a watched kettle never boils. So even many years later, they would have like lame sort of newspaper jokes, which would be like, oh, it isn't going to boil because you're watching it. But in 1935, he was already subverting those expectations where he's setting up this joke as if the punchline is going to be, oh, because you're watching it, and it's not going to be very smart, but it's just like a fundamental, there's no fire, there's a bigger observation over here instead of making a joke. I think that kind of stuff is really complex. It's complex given how much how toothless many comic strips were, like say in the 80s, and like in the 30s, someone's already smarter. So I find that to be quite interesting.
Yeah, this is actually really good find. I mean, as I say, I've not known about it, but they keep on producing it. They keep on reprinting this.
It used to be something you'd find in a lot of comic book shops, I think, in the 80s, so it's been going a long time.
Yeah, because I was looking for the actual, like, when it started, but it seems to be everywhere. It's like information is everywhere on the web, and I can't really give you proper information. I found out how it came to be, but it seems to be, as far as I know, it just says in it's just like even like numbers. Look at numbers 341 to 342 revenue. So this is like 300 issues came out of this. It's just crazy.
Well, that makes sense. If I was seeing it in the early 80s at comic shops,
yeah,
wonder how frequently it comes out.
Yeah, and then they have the actual, like, as I say, I went to Forbidden Planet just sometimes you go for information once it gets released, and they're gonna have it like it's coming out like next month, another issue of that, so collected edition. So it's kind of mind-boggling that they're still producing that. So
yeah, I didn't know it was still going.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Scott is saying sometime in the 80s, and I'm wondering because I've got a couple of old. It's called Comics Media. And I believe that was a UK magazine as well. And they reprinted a bunch of Modesty Blades and strips in there. So I'm wondering, but I'm pretty sure those were 70s. They're totally inaccessible now. But I'm pretty sure that
Comics Review was
77-ish.
US based. But
was it?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. It seems to be. It is US.
I see. Okay.
There was
so
some
they might have got US rights to Modesty Blades, which in the US no newspaper would publish it because of the fear of the female body. But
Right.
So it says Manuscript Press. It has the copyright. All rights reserved. Mountain Home. I don't know. It doesn't even say the area.
And I think before the Comics Review, there was something with a really hard to pronounce name like Meminisse Falls Gazette. That was actually a magazine that came out with reprinting newspaper comics. So I think this has been going on throughout comics fandom for a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he
Yeah,
even
Menominee Falls Gazette. I've got
Oh,
one or
okay.
two here
Yeah.
somewhere, but it's
I was
pretty
trying from
great to
memory
see
to remember
it's
what
kind
it
of
was
that
called.
newspaper style. Yeah.
Well, that's how all comic books started, right? They were all
Well, yes,
originally reprints of the newspaper strips. But I
Mhm.
think that Alley Oop also has one of those volumes that Earl Grey got of those LOAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alley Oop
things.
lasted a really long time because he was still around when I was reading newspapers as a kid, but the style had changed over time. But
Yeah, I went in their website. They have comicsrevenuewebsite.com, and it says features full color Sunday comic strips including Phantom, Russ the Manning Tarzan, Mandrake the Magician, Flash Gordon, Casey Ruggles, Gasoline Alley, Steve Canyon, daily strips for Alley Oop, Sir Bagby, Crazy Cat, Buzz Sawyer, Rick O'Shani, and the Gaff by Peter O'Donnell. So that's what they say on their own website. So interesting. Yeah. So
I've always wanted to read Garth. I heard about that. I would have books of, the Penguin History of Comics or whatever, and Garth would be in there, but I never actually saw Garth comics.
Yeah.
That must have been a
Garth was
comic
in
strip from
Indian
England.
newspapers as well.
Sorry?
We had Garth in Indian newspapers as well, and then there was a reprint. So Garth was another one that we found later. Rip Kirby, stuff that's more mature and felt like it's written for grown-ups long before, Vertigo and Batman, etc. Like there were these comics that were right alongside, and it was funny that companies would print like these children's comics, and they would print these, and they would all sort of be on the newsstand together. So you could accidentally pick up something that your parents would later get really mad at you for, because they were being brought out by the same things. But Garth, Modesty Blaze, it's funny how some of these things spread around the world in weird ways.
Yeah. So I guess the British ones were edgier and more adult than the US.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely contained like toplessness. I don't think that there was actual violence depicted in the panels. There was certainly no like decapitations or anything like that. There was gunfire, but you didn't have Sam Peckinpah like exit wounds or something like that. It was mainly the occasional pair of breasts, I think, that distinguished them from.
Right.
But the line work was very slick. It looked a lot like the Modesty Blaze, and it looked very less cartoony and more. And also the other thing was that they were in black and white, which makes a very big difference when a lot of the other comics you're seeing are in color. They automatically feel more adult, or maybe even more illicit, so something a little more scary about black and white comics.
Yeah. So we have more than 2 hours been talking, and I want to ask for, like some of us are very far away, hours
Very
wise.
late at night.
Yeah, late at night. So are we still good to continue, or are we calling it a quits?
I think I might have to go, but if you guys want to carry on chat, go for it. I think I'm going to have to say goodbye, though.
I just have to say something. I talked to Raza first in the beginning. I think I have to quit this weekly chat for good.
Right.
I want to thank you to being so nice to me and feeling me always very comfortable. But I thought over the course of our chats, sometimes I just butchered some reviews here. In particular, the last time with Helsing and Spirou, I really missed the opportunity to edit all the stuff that I said out and start once again. So I do with my usual videos, and it's just sometimes really sometimes it really flows good. I feel today was one of those days, but sometimes I'm really not up for the task, and I'm selling the books a bit short. There's no drama. I'm not out of the world, and we still can connect over or yeah, like it's in YouTube always. said that there's the possibility I can insult Jack Kirby, for instance, and make Damien real angry and kick me out of the channel here or the chat. But yeah, so yeah, I feel a bit sorry,
It's been
but
great having you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I never thought about you butchering anything, but
Yeah, exactly.
I can
I tried to
understand
convince him.
since you're used to editing things.
Yeah.
But if you ever want to come back and just chat without making official reviews of anything, that's fine.
okay,
too.
yeah, thanks. And,
Yeah, no, the invitation's always open. It's been great.
thanks.
So are we doing bye-byes?
Yeah, I've got to go for sure. I gotta
Yeah,
get up and
okay.
move around.
Get well soon.
I will talk to you with your email. Yeah, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Take
I'll talk
care.
to you all soon.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to miss
Okay.
next week, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, now we are 4.
Well, I feel I'm to blame. I'm chasing everyone away now.
No.
No, but it's interesting. I like because I'm very scared of doing live stuff, and I've never, when I made my first live stream, I was very nervous because I like editing. I like and I also like when I record stuff to get it wrong a couple of times because it helps clarify what I actually want to say because I haven't taken the time to actually write a script. So I feel very, it's a high wire act without a safety net in some ways, but I completely understand because it's one thing if you're just sounding like an idiot and that's fine. But then if you insult something that is art or valuable, or if you wanted to say something better about it. But I like live streams because they're a different kind of thing. I think when I want to make a video, I'm still going to make a video, and there'll be certain things where I'm like, oh, should I talk about that? And I'm like, I don't want to talk about that on a live stream. I want to talk about it in a video. But I think lately what I found is there'll be some reads of mine that I don't want to make a video on, but I would talk about it on a live stream.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good idea for me to start classifying after I finish reading something. It's just like, is this and it's not like it's better or worse. It's like there's a lot of stuff over here that I can go round and round on live, and especially if I'm chatting about it with someone, or I don't mind rambling about it. And then there are other things in which I want to be very precise, and I want to say what I want to say, and I want to be able to edit it. So I think I'm going to make that kind of choice when I finish reading something.
Yeah, no, I
actually,
think about I
sorry.
think about bringing in stuff that I want to chat about with the people who are on the show. So I read a lot of new comics every week, and I only occasionally talk about a few of them here on the show if I think they're interesting to talk with you guys. And then I also bring in stuff that that I've read that I probably won't have time to discuss in some other video because I can only make so many videos. Like next up, maybe next time I'm on, I'll talk about these old concretes that I stumbled across, but I don't see myself making a regular video on them. Did you include concrete on your top 10 Dark Horse? Yeah. So I was kind of interested to. You probably read them all. Have you read this little miniseries?
No, I haven't read any of the new Concrete. I've only
This is
read
from
it up to-
'94.
Oh, okay, yeah. Then I have because I read it not in the single issues, but in the smaller Dark
I see.
Horse
So you wouldn't necessarily
collections.
recognize these covers.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you tell me the name, because there's like depths, heights.
It's called Killer Smile.
Yes, Killer Smile. Yes, that's I think volume 5 in the. It's either volume 5 or volume 6. It's the last one.
It's
or
a
the
4-issue
second last one.
miniseries.
Right. All of them are. I think all of them are 4 or 5 issues.
Okay.
As far as the series is concerned, Concrete. After the first like Dark Horse Presents stuff.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so Killer Smile I think was the 4th arc or the 5th arc. I'm not remembering that correctly, but yeah, it's a wonderful series. I love Concrete. But sorry, but Earl Grey, you were going to say something.
No, I just wanted to say that actually I will take this idea of a floating chat that goes from one channel to the other. I started this with some German YouTubers, so we will continue next Wednesday. Hint, hint, 8 p.m. For those of you who understand German.
So we all have to learn German and then
Right.
Just to listen for
understand
you,
what
actually see
really
your
wanted
face
to
while you
say.
talk. Yeah.
Then I will know what I'm talking. Yeah.
Yeah. It is challenging, especially if it's you don't feel, especially the language you're speaking, it's not something you are in particularly like versed really well. But you know, like we were trying to, I was trying to convince
Yeah. Like
Oberyn,
hell.
saying
you
your
tried.
English is great to understand. And the whole point for me, I am probably the I've been collecting comic books in a while, and whatever I have, mainly I'm reading whatever I have. So for example, the series of Sandman, I'm continuously reading, and I still chat to you guys about it because, you know, I don't want to force myself to read something just because I want to come and chat to you guys. And that's the whole point, you know, like for me, it's just having the conversations about and learn, to be honest, like learn about lots of things, like those newspaper strips you just showed to me. I didn't have a clue they were in existence. Now I know. And now my curiosity is already peaked. So influences is there already. So, and that's the great part of this chat, you know, like Damien, Comic Crack, you all Gray, and then now you for a lot of comics. It's just, you never know what you guys gonna read, you know, not all of us reading the same stuff. So it's a great way of just finding out stuff. So in that sense. So are we having, anybody wants to still share something they read? So while we still have time, because I'm okay if we have time, or maybe for the local
It
comics.
looks like Angshuman's looking for
All right,
something.
I've got something. This is something I've not heard of before. I think it might be a new series. Just joking.
Totally new.
You had me going. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I was like,
I-
what?
It's a discovery, you know.
I hallucinated all
I
these
think-
videos.
well, the thing is that we don't get single issues and monthlies and things like that. So I am, you know, by requirement a trade waiter even for current series. But most of the time, I'm years behind. But Usagi Yojimbo is obviously the exception because I really am amazed by this series of how consistent it is over the years. And this new series moving to IDW, I mean, I don't think it's skipped any, you know, it's just going as strong, maybe even stronger than before. And I think in particular, like the big story in this collection, this is volume 2 of the new IDW series. So this is Homecoming, and it features a story in which our hero returns to his village and meets people. But the story that really got me was the first story in this, which is Tatami, and it's a 2-part story. And it starts with this, and this has happened in Usagi Yojimbo a number of times now, but it starts with this entire preparation of these tatami mats from these reeds, and it's just in painstaking detail of how these reeds are gathered and they're stitched together and cut and then dried and then who does what. And there are 2 different people before the story starts with our hero wandering this town, and then he gets into this situation in which these mats take 2 years to prepare, to harvest and dry, and then they have been ordered by a lord who is going to use them for a special tea ceremony for an emissary of the emperor. So in all of this stuff, what is really interesting is this is the best thing about Usagi Yojimbo, where it gives you all this history and this cultural stuff, and then it weaves it into a story. And the idea of honor and disgrace is like, oh my goodness, I must have this tea ceremony, and if the tea ceremony is not perfect for the emissary of the emperor, it's not even the emperor, it's not having that tea ceremony will be a disgrace and will, you know, create a problem with my reputation. And the kind of violence, like ninjas and assassins are sent out to destroy these mats so that the tea ceremony can't take place, you know, is just a fantastic story, because you would think it's not that high stakes, but this one story, without reading any other Usagi Yojimbo, without knowing anything about the series, just being dropped into this thing, given this description of these mats being made and how important and how beautiful they are, like in the space of a very short time, all that context being given to you, and then you have this adventure story of them trying to protect these mats from these people who are trying to destroy the mats. And you're just like, it's all about mats, where it's like, yes, it's about mats that take 2 years to make, and the political fate of these regions and who is in favor with the emperor rests on this tea ceremony taking place. And then I mean, I'm just spoiling the story a little bit. At the end of the story, it's an incredible tragedy because they're unable to do something, and the guard who was heading this caravan, bringing the mats back, has to now commit ritual suicide because of the dishonor that he has brought. So you get this incredible gravity and incredible seriousness and this incredible tragic end to this story with characters, situations that you were just introduced to. And I thought it was, I talk about Usagi Yojimbo quite passionately, but it was just another example of how in a very short period of time, so much as far as history, culture, context, and then action, suspense, and tragedy was brought together about like mats for a tea ceremony. I think is a perfect example of what makes Usagi Yojimbo so special and unlike like any other comic I read. I mean, I can't imagine that being done in this way, which is all ages appropriate and serious and grave and colorful in the way that this comic series does it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so many people just look at it, glance over it on the shelves, and think it's just a kid's comic. And
well,
and
I mean,
then-
it's interesting why. Because is it because it's a rabbit? Because it's an anthropomorphic animal? I think that might be the main thing. Like if it looked like Lone Wolf and Cub or something like that, people would be a lot more.
And the drawing style along with the but that's all both elements that make me like it better. Now that I've gotten into it. For me, it took it being in color to jump on.
Well, these stories are originally in color, so I don't have anything to compare them to unless they bring out one of those editions like those other comics, the black and white. It's the opposite. I mean, they are bringing the older ones out in color as well, so you're reading
I read this one this week.
Yeah.
Oh, you have the one before?
The Dragon Below Conspiracy issue 4.
I only have 3.
I live in your future.
Yeah, because it's late sometimes. The
Those
books
are-
coming in UK.
Those covers are by David Peterson, right?
Yes, the Mouse Guard guy.
Yeah, they're very different.
We are very different.
Yeah, very
But-
high detailed. Yeah.
Yeah.
As well.
Stan Sakai has done Mouse Guard stories, so I know that they.
They're probably friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It blows my mind how good it is and how I missed out for so long. But I still like it much better with color. There's something in my own visual thing, and I'm obviously not always into color, but there's something with his art style and color that makes it click for me a lot more.
Yeah, mine too as well. I mean, I'm just I'm really glad they coming out with this reprinted single format. I'm buying them because they, like I just wanted to have it, but they are colored as well versions. So you have like 6 sometimes issues. I don't know how many this is gonna take to complete.
12.
But
That one's
12.
12.
issues.
or 12. So it's just I like this format first and foremost because I am a reader of floppies anyway at the end of the day. So I like to get that. And every single time I'm gonna there's a hardcover of Usagi Yojimbo I want always to come, but it's like if I don't buy it on that moment, you'll miss out because it just gets sold out and then you can't buy them if you want to pay really big amount of money. Like the latest reprint they did of the volume 1 hardcover, it came out, it sold out, and then you're not going to see it again. Or if you want to pay for like really absorbent amount of money, like 400, sometimes 200 pounds, it's like crazy. So it's very
They
popular.
haven't announced any color hardbacks yet.
Yeah,
which
and that's
surprises me.
yeah. Like you showed the trades, they are there. You can find them trades in the color. They get reprinted now by IDW, but not hardcover. So, which is a shame. Shame.
But I mean, IDW's done Usagi hardcovers before of like smaller things like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes,
stuff,
they are all in
etc.
hardcovers. Yes.
So
Yeah,
maybe
the-
they'll
the-
put these together in hardcovers one day.
A larger collection, perhaps.
Yeah,
No.
probably. They'll probably wait for 3 volumes to come up and do something like a saga, Usagi saga thing that Dark Horse was doing. I like the fact that these are regular comic size, though. I mean, before with Dark Horse, the trades were shrunken; they were smaller, so they weren't.
Really?
It was yeah. So I don't get floppies here, and I
yeah.
would wait for the things. But it's good that IDW is keeping them at comic size,
Which is nice.
it makes
That's
me
how it
feel-
should
yeah,
be.
it makes me
Yeah.
feel less left out.
Yeah. There's one thing I just picked up because I receive my floppies every end of the month. So I don't know if you have, Damien, have you seen this or you?
I picked that up this week, but I haven't read it yet. It's a new Peter Milligan, right?
Yeah, because I want my Peter Milligan
yeah.
sometimes in my life, so I was like, okay, he's coming out something. This is Walt Comics, and this is it's extremely entertaining, but it's really bloody. I'll show you some in. So it starts like this. So government message: all expressions of fear and anger, love and lust, humor are forbidden in public places. So and then you have this creature here, which is like really nice and stuff. But then the art style is great. To be honest, actually really helps the story. At first, I was like, like you with each single issue, you start to get used to something. And then I was like, because it's kind of like cartoony, very kind of mellow stuff. But then you have this happens to people when they have emotions. So the completely gets obliterated, and the only thing you get left is this. So the point of the storyline, I'm not going to spoil it, but the point of the storyline is that, like they say, you can't have any human emotions whatsoever, like no fear, no anger, no like lust, anything, whatever is what we know a human can be. Because if you do, and you're not in an enclosed environment where those creatures can't feel you, you basically get obliterated. And it says in here, Dax and Bisa love each other, but in this new world and terrifying world, love is dangerous. Feeling anything is dangerous. Earth have new and terrible invader, monsters that deprive us of very feelings that makes us humans. So really good. I was because like. You get very tempted into thinking, like first issue, am I going to get into the story as much as I, like first issue, you judge quite strictly. I think we always do when we read that. But I mean, I'm curious to see how far can you take this story, because at the end of the day, we have emotions. We go through life with emotions. We can't just don't feel angry. Don't get pissed off with somebody else, or like that kind of like love somebody, show the love affections, like you can't just not show affection. Like there's this lady who's in charge. She goes back home, and then she has this 5-year-old kid who she needs to teach them, and you can't feel anything, so she hugs him, but then she tries all her best not to have no emotions whatsoever, just like a plain face. And then she's like struggling, because at the end of the day, if she would feel something, this creature comes out with all the Swiss whirl and stuff like that. Very interesting, to be honest. It's very Milligan, to be honest, what I felt like what he usually takes in a comic book. And so far I'm intrigued, because you have this love couple, and they're having a wedding, and everybody's happy, and suddenly while they're celebrating having a wedding party, things happens in there. So, and you're like, oh my God, so how far can you take the storyline? And what kind of solution? Because it seems to be military gets involved. And of course, because, like everything comes into when you are in dire need of some help, military always gets involved in how they're going to salute, because military still have feelings. They have lots of anger. So I wonder how they will be able to solve this issue. So, but yeah, so far it's one of the things I tried it out, and it's not bad at all from a new issue. It's whatever comes out. So,
but some things of the premise are, I don't know. I somehow they were used before. So
Oh yeah, I bet. I
the-
mean, what's new these days? To be honest, something
Yeah,
news from
okay.
something,
Yeah.
you know, like
especially in horror kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see how. I mean, that's the thing. It will be interesting how far he can take the story. I don't even know if it's mini or ongoing. I just picked it up because I saw his name and then I saw the art and I was just like, okay, I'm intrigued and see where it goes. And read wise, it's very it flows really nicely to me while I was reading it.
Right.
So, and then
The
This
general
one,
pattern with Vault books is they're minis.
yeah, and then I don't know anybody read Primordial. Have you
Oh
done
yeah,
read?
yeah. Remember I talked about it on a show a while back.
Oh yeah. Well then I forgot
No, you
about
can
it.
talk
But
about it. Tell us what you think.
I don't know what to think. I felt the art itself was
Or did I talk about it? Oh, maybe.
very he used like pictures of people and used in I need to make it so people actually can see clear.
Maybe I didn't talk about it on the show. It's super
Yeah, so-
photograph.
Yeah, for photograph realistic at the beginning. So just to tell, so it starts with this 1961 Cape Canaveral, and of course Space Race, and this is Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino and Dave Stewart once again in colors.
Yes.
And you have this guy doctor comes into this station, and he's like, oh my god, I'm gonna help shooting again, maybe space gonna be traveling again, but no, he has to go rummage through the files for military to find something useful for them, and then he finds some documentation about this one trip where monkeys were shot into space. And he found this paperwork where it proves that they're supposed to have died, but there's a proof of paperwork where they should be alive. And then he talks to a government official about that, and suddenly he's been blocked away from the space, and he's not allowed to talk about it. And then apparently, in the same time, in that era, of course, Russian has done the same space because this was space race, and Russia has shot up the thing into the orbit, but of course they use the dock for that, and it has all this crazy panels and stuff, but there's not much. I mean, it gives you an idea, hint what they're trying to do with this. Like they have us extra information about this, that they were captured rather than be dead, and our governments or American government and Russian government hid that from us, and that's why they canceled it, because they got scared of something, and that's the hint of the whole comic book. So, but there is a bit of the art, I guess, right at the end of it.
Right. Finally,
Which
you
you
get to
have.
see what his actual art looks like.
Yeah, so I was really, because I know Andrea Sorrentino and I never expected this to be straight away from the get-go. And I was like, because I'm not very interested when it's photorealistic art, especially used in comic book. I find it, I'm going to say plainly, lazy. Because of the technology you have, it's quite easy to use. Of course, you still have to work with panels and everything like that, as you can see in here. But if it's just for the main storyline to push it forward, like get really official, they mention dates, they mention when they were the race kind of thing, it happens. But then the actual story will be his drawn art, then would be okay. But it's not really giving you much in this first issue. For example, comparing to this one, let's say, completely like to this one, this is quite a lot of story. I kind of get to know the characters, I get to know the place, how it's what happening in here. I just got to know about an idea, or what kind of idea we're going to portray, what Jeff Lemire will show it.
It was hardly a start, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it seems to be, if you're curious about conspiracy theories, I guess this is kind of the comic book, because it is conspiracy theory of what would happen if those monkeys and that dog has survived, and what would happen later. Because there's the last page, which I'm not going to show it you, kind of a spoiler. It's just one character in there, and you're like, oh, okay. But I'm not sure if I would like to continue this comic book in single format. Probably trade, it would be easier to read, because you will get more information. Because I don't know if it's going to give you as much information. If it's going to be like this format, like just that much information in one single issue, I don't know if I can continue that in that kind of format. So, But it's curious to see if how far he wants to take that information, because he's using the dates, and I was like kind of right dates and everything, whatever happened. So
Well,
so
I think it's an alternate history, so that
Is
the
it?
space race is not going to happen at all the way it did in our world.
Oh, okay.
That was my reading of it.
Okay.
Which is intriguing, but he didn't give us much in the way of characters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think even with sort of the artistic use of all those photographs,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so used to in comics the hand of the artist in
Yeah.
even a very realistic artist like Jeff Darrow. There's no one else who can do that, right? It's some distinctive feel of one particular human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the more art has that, the more I like it. And
Yeah.
the closer to just a series of photographs is, the less it just doesn't work for me, even realistic or unrealistic art, either way.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Andrea Sorrentino is actually some kind of red flag for me, because I really dislike his art. Even and most of the people like it usually, maybe with this comic not, but I think he even can't draw real faces. You really see sometimes the photograph of the face and the rest that he added because he had to do some kind of panel out of it. And I know, is Oblivion song by him or this other?
No,
Gideon
there's
Falls.
another one.
Gideon Falls.
Gideon
Okay,
Falls.
yeah, everybody's raving, but since Andrea Sorrentino is at the art duties, I see all the paneling gimmicks and so on. He's very versatile in doing layouts and stuff, obviously, but the core business of drawing the stuff, that's somehow, yeah, as you put it,
He has
the artist's
very-
hand.
Yeah, he has very good graphic style design wise, and graphically he can play things like, like those, like it's prime. This is a very good example of that, like this page here. I mean, it's manipulating all of that, and it makes completely absolute sense, of course. And then you have
It's fun. It's fun.
and then you have this page, which is absolutely fantastic color-wise, because they did really fantastic, but it still makes complete sense on whatever you're seeing in there, and it's cleverly done. But have you, Damon? Have you read Gideon Falls? Maybe for Love of Comics, have you read Gideon Falls? Not yet.
I actually read part of Gideon Falls and then decided to get it in trade. So I now have the complete hardback, which I haven't read yet. In my memory of the first few issues of Gideon Falls, while it was a bit Photoshoppy, it still felt more partially hand-drawn compared to this one, which felt almost entirely done in, like that there was very little hand-drawn.
Yeah, that's just
except
felt
those
really,
last
yeah.
3 pages.
Yeah,
But-
exactly.
But Gideon Falls felt like there was more combining of Photoshop and hand-drawn stuff in individual pages. But it might have been that he just fooled me with his Photoshop techniques.
Yeah, the Photoshop is actually quite crazy skills. If people the watercolor with Photoshop is actually really realistic, and it's actually quite like, oh my god, it's like, because you can, watercolor has that. They always say, oh, try to be watercolor to draw, and it's not great to be, because you have to manipulate water to actually get into the way how you want it to see. But the minute you start muddling the colors together, if they mash up, they become like almost then, like, 2 colors mixed together. It's almost like say green and orange, and it becomes black.
Right.
It's so dangerous. And then with watercolor, like in the Photoshop watercolor, you can just one side, you brush up, you can shove that away if you don't like it. You just put a little bit there, and it looks breathtaking, to be honest. I've seen some of the really good artists who are using Photoshop watercolors, and I was like, is this really Photoshop? Because I was thinking it's actually like proper paper, and you can't distinguish the difference, and that's how talented can be, the
Right.
computer systems these days, which is crazy.
But if you're not, like with the Sorrentino art in that comic,
Yeah.
I recognize stuff that I could do myself on Photoshop or with simpler programs. Just this very simple filter kind of effect.
Yeah. So it's not something, as I say, it's just way too realistic to me. It's like I think it didn't help for the story as well, because I was like already like having like reserve feel to it, because I didn't I wanted more like drawn art on that comic book particularly. So.
How are you doing, Anshuman? Are you still
I'm
with
good.
us, or do you need to go?
I'm sorry. This is as I said, it's a lot of fun. But I was just wondering about this Photoshop with the watercolors, because I have wondered about artists, particularly when I look at really complex, like I know the Grass Kings had a lot of watercolor, but the latest Cyril Pedrosa book, what is it called? The Golden Age, the fantasy, the first volume of the fantasy thing. It's just like I don't know how these colors were achieved. I mean, like it seems like maybe he's painting it, but it's the same thing. Is that how you getting these bleeds? So I'm guessing that there must be a lot of digital work going on where I just have no idea. But it can't be that they've taken something that's big and then they're going to risk it by putting watercolors on top of it. There's got to be a different approach today.
Right. Digital painting, I suppose. A lot of those Marvel kind of covers are digitally painted now. They look like someone hand painted them, but they were just digital.
Right. But in the case of watercolors specifically, how many of the watercolors...
I'm sorry, I haven't seen the comic you're talking about.
Yeah, but just like how many of the watercolors that we see today are outright watercolors on paper?
I'm double guessing myself all the time now.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that Matt Kent comics have real watercolor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think also when Lemire does his own stuff, that's real, I think.
And Harrow County by what's his name?
Tyler Cook.
Tyler Cook.
Yeah.
I went to a comic book store and Tyler Cook was doing a signing and there was no one there and he was just sitting there painting. I was like scared. Like, if I talk to you, you're going to make a mistake. He was painting a comic book page right in front of me there. So I actually didn't talk to him partially because I felt shy, and partially because I thought I didn't want to ruin the work.
So he's one of your Portland homies too?
Yes, one of the many artists.
Man.
I suspect half of the U.S. artists live in Portland.
All the important people.
It's not that it has much effect on you if you live in Portland and you occasionally glimpse something if you know what.
You just like pass by like, oh, okay, cool. I've seen your work, whatever kind of thing. I'm not sure about David Mack, because David Mack covers look very, very kind of like manipulated, but it also has the watercolor theme to it. But there's another way of putting the covers together. You can actually have something drawn of yours. If you have really high resolution, like pictures taken of your art or wherever it scans, you can actually put it in digital, and then you can manipulate the actual art inside.
But here's this collage thing going on with lots of stuff that he puts on.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of hybrids too. They'll do some work by hand and then do more on digital.
Speaking of watercolor, stuff like
that. That looks that looks watercolor, but but you never know.
He recycles the stuff again and again, and then is some very simple gimmicks just to change the proportions of the drawing, to make it broader or smaller, and that's really something with David Mack, that because he does it so often and again and again, that's a bit too much.
Even that interview with Jeff Darrow, how his dad had to build up table for the vanishing points when he drawing because of that. Digital, you don't have the problem. Because you can minuscule your page to nothing almost, and you can have your vanishing points and you have those lines, and you can blow up again, but those vanishing lines exactly goes to the point because you just by the click of a button. and that's the beauty of digital. It's scary, but the only part also, like he was talking about in an interview, saying I have my old, because he does pencil and he inks over it, so he has all the pencils available at home. And he like some of them he sells, of course, like he said before, but that's how much the stuff he has of his original stuff. You don't do that in digital. I mean, people are trying to sell digital stuff as a thing, you know, like starting selling your digital like files and pay thousands of pounds
Oh, those
sometimes.
NFTs.
Yeah, NFTs, yeah, exactly. But I don't think it's still gonna pan out as what we humans do like to have something in our hands to touch and feel. Very primal feeling, but I think we know kind of when you purchase something, it's like you can actually touch it. You know, on the computer, you don't have your computer and see like, oh, this is real, kind of thing. You know, so I don't know. But yeah, it's good because we needed the comic books to come out so quickly. So digital is very helpful in that sense, and that's why we have so many things coming out, and we have so much choice in the matter as well. So you can hate it or love it in the same
Although
time.
ironically, those artists back in the 60s were able to pump out stuff without any special help.
I know, but you have those like Jack Irvis who's able to do that quite quickly as well.
It
But
was kind of a requirement to get a job in comics was to be fast.
yeah. Yeah, kabuki. Yeah,
Well,
never
do you want to
went-
take a look at my concretes before we go, or does everyone want to get to bed?
No, I can go look
sure.
for concrete.
So I'll do my
Your special.
screen share again. Let's see.
And let's see.
Share screen.
Oh, there you go.
I hadn't read any concrete since a few random stories in Dark Horse Presents sometime in the 80s, I think. Or was it the 90s? I'm not sure. I think it was the 80s. So this is a miniseries that came out under the Legend imprint in 1994. And he even writes long rambles at the back. And he talks a lot about Image Comics and how this Legend series is a response to Image.
Oh.
Which is ironic. In 1994, I think the sales were about to go over a cliff, but they didn't know that yet. So Dark Horse really had a very tasteful response to Image Comics, right? Where Image does all the stuff that had no content. They went out and gathered together John Byrne and the Chadwick and Mignola, and I'm not sure who that is there. And Michael Allred and Rusty and Big Boy and the Martha Johnson series and the Frank Miller series. So anyway, it was very classy, very exciting time, really. And Chadwick was part of it. And I love the covers in all of these, and they come with very thick cardstock covers, and the covers are very beautiful. And then each cover at the back has another just tasteful black and white sketch that in some way plays on what happens in the issue. So they're very just beautiful individual issues.
Nice.
And the main plot, let's see, I got them out of order now again. The main plot is, or the whole plot is that one of Concrete's assistants, and because I only read a few short stories, I just completely forgot the background of Concrete, but I guess he has these two people who work with him, maybe, I think, helping him try to figure out what happened to him when the aliens turned him into Concrete. But maybe other people know better than I do. But one of the assistants is trying to pick up this girl at a gas station, but she's basically like a Bonnie and Clyde character. And when her boyfriend comes out of the gas station, he's like, I'm going to kill you because you're a witness to my crime of robbing the gas station. And maybe he killed the gas station attendant. But instead, he and the girl kind of talk him into keeping him alive for now. So they make him drive his truck as their getaway vehicle. And the whole 4 issues is them driving around this town in California, small town, and trying to avoid the police and the police trying to find them, and Concrete trying to catch up to the police to keep the police from shooting his friend as an accomplice of these murderers. And various, he keeps it pretty simple, but various complications come through. And the focus, I think, is not really on Concrete, but on his friend's experience of being kidnapped and being sort of forced into this whole crime scenario. And at the end of the series, a little bit of a spoiler, there's some pages given over to what it has done to his friend on a kind of permanent basis to have this experience. And I really appreciated how the story unfolded and how it didn't try to get any bigger than its basic premise. On the other hand, the characters have a certain, I don't know what to say. Like, I just wish there was a little more character to them. There's quite a bit of development, I guess, done on the man who's the killer, but less on the woman who's spending time with him, except that she just is bored and wants excitement or something. And the art, I think I only experienced Concrete before in its very early days in black and white, I think. But the art there's times where there's really incredible art and other times where it's kind of awkward and clunky. Like maybe a panel like this or something. It's just not super, I don't know, beautiful to behold, but then some others are. Oh, and there's all kinds of like just running small details, like the guy keeps missing chances to take a pee and he's drinking all this Coke as part of his ploy to put off getting killed by them. So it's a really interesting comic. I don't know if Concrete's still going, and I don't feel like there's any other comics with this particular tone out there. And looking at indie comics now, most of the American indie comics on the level of this kind of indie comic, a color miniseries or what have you from a fairly big publisher, they're more pumped up on hormones or on steroids. This story does not have if they did a story like this, it would be pumped up on steroids, and the tension would be ratcheted 3 or 4 times up, and the violence would be even, way more threatening. And I kind of like this, keeping things at a more lower, more realistic scale, or at least it was a nice breath of fresh air for me. There's a really nice drawing. He really excels at drawing Concrete himself, but many drawings does really nice human figure drawings.
Yeah.
And then in the back matter, do you remember this story, Angshuman?
Yeah.
And how does it
not
rank
read-
for you in terms of Concrete in general?
It's not bad, but I think you've got the thing right. I think the new character gets more attention because maybe you're supposed to know about his friend, and so it's and that I agree with you. I think it's bold storytelling to take the focus not just away from Concrete, but also spend so much time with these secondary characters. But I think for the whole series, the one thing that is common is that it doesn't get, like a Michael Bay movie, or it doesn't get amped up, even when it's showing you epic things, because Concrete, he can't die as a human being can, because he's transferred. So he'll do things like walk across the bottom of the ocean and stuff like that, just to see what he can do. And it's just presented to you, it doesn't have to be a double page splash and things like that. And it has a nice low-key sort of approach to things that I really appreciated.
Yeah. And here they think of details that just, like, he needs someone to drive him in a large pickup truck or he'll crush the car. So he can't at first he can't get a ride to go rescue his friend. I just like that kind of thinking about the smaller details.
Yeah. It's very looks like the art, especially now. I mean, I have this miniseries, and I don't know, I'm not sure why it doesn't seem like I've read it, because now you're looking through it, but the art looks very like Stephen Dillon in some points and some panels, especially with the guy with sunglasses, looks so similar.
There is a Steve Dillon.
maybe it's because
similarity in places.
yeah, because there's some panels like the way it's just even the figure of the face and stuff like that. It's just like when he holds the gun, especially to somebody other guy's like head, that looks really much like a Preacher sense of Steve Dillon and stuff like that. But the earlier stuff I remember for sure. I really enjoyed it. The first series is in particularly when Concrete gets introduced.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite, and then I went looking for all other minis, and I don't know, like you buy something, you got really concentrate on one character, and suddenly you have it, and because you have it, you just like put it away, and I can read it whatever time I can read it.
Right.
And the one thing I never was able to find is his first appearance, because like you get into character, why not getting to see how it came about to be? And then, of course, it was in Dark Horse Presents #2, and apparently it's quite rare. In 1986, it came out. So I've been looking around, and especially in here, I'm talking UK wise. I mean,
Right.
It seems to be in America, it's much more easier to find it, as far as I remember. I was looking at that time. But yeah, I always enjoyed the character itself when he was concentrating completely on him, and his psyche, how he like there's the one about love story, like that story was really for me kind of like interesting to see, because he was still in love with his female, and then he's like Concrete, like literally. So it's kind of difficult for him in that time was. But yeah, I liked Paul Chadwick in generally. His art and paneling, it's always been kind of like full on, like you have all backgrounds and the actions is there. So as far as I remember,
I
but
think
don't know.
I'm the opposite of Sleepy Reader, where I sometimes appreciate things more in black and white, even things that were originally published in color. When I see the black and white edition of it, I think you're right, because when you're showing this, it's the same thing for me. It's like, wait, I have read this and I have seen these, but I've only seen it in black and white. And
Did the volume you got was in black and white?
Yeah, so the Dark Horse collections are in black and white, so they're not in.
Yeah.
The smaller sized collection. I don't know if there are larger trades of the minis, but when I when I'm looking at this, I did think of Cassidy or a couple of other kind of things. But it also reminds me a little bit of like the early issues of the Sandman. And there's a particular look of everything, from that time that is a little common, and I think it has to do with the colors, because they make very different artists look the same. Where who I'm thinking of and Paul Chadwick, they don't draw the same, but something about the colors makes the shadows look the same. Whereas I think there's because it's only black as opposed to the colors. Whereas in black and white, I don't know, it looks like it has more depth, or it looks like it has more detail. And that might be, I don't know, that might be just a personal thing.
Because I've only read this in color, I can't quite picture it in black and white. They do the color kind of oddly in this flashback sequence. Did they make it kind of grayed out in the black and white, or did it just look like line
I think
art?
it's got that. It's got gray actually. So this is interesting. I mean, I'd like to see these side by side.
It
Just
would
so that
be
I could
fun to do
compare.
side by side.
Yeah.
His art also reminds me of Val Mayrick, so I was hoping to show it when Comic Crack was on, because I know he likes Val Mayrick. But anyway, for me, I mean, I think I kind of missed out some of the levels of character because I just dived into this miniseries. But I'm finding, if I find something a little quirky, a little unusual in the back issues of the comic book store, it's pleasurable for me to just sort of dive in and not quite know what I'm going to get. So anyway, I enjoyed the experience. I was going to say though, I think because he was writing this story about crime and he was researching before the internet, I guess, books on how to stay safe from crime and stuff. It sounded like he was getting a little paranoid about, a criminal could attack you at any time and break into your house at any time, that kind of stuff. So there's a whole column here where he's just warning you on all these things you shouldn't do, because I'm trying to remember specific ones, but a lot of them are like, don't watch out if someone comes to help you. Like if someone comes to help you on the side of the road when you have a car accident, they're probably a criminal out to get you. That kind of paranoia.
So Concrete, the first run of Concrete was first 10 issues. So when he started, so he started in Dark Horse Presents number 2, blah blah blah, and then all that was presents, and then they released the first 10 issues of it in a single format in Dark Horse, and then though it seems to be I don't have this. That's why I don't remember. I just looked it out now to see my CLZ app to see if I have them all, but it doesn't look like I had. That's why I wasn't so familiar with it. It looks kind of like that. But yeah, the Fragile Creatures, I think Creature was the most interesting for me, intriguing with that, because he's concentrating on him more. So if you can get, it's 4 issues as well. So if you can get that somewhere, now, of course you probably would be able to. So
well, and these authors forums. So I don't know if the book version would have these. Like he has a long discussion here of where he lived when he was first struggling to be an artist, and and how he based the town that Concrete lives on a town that was near there, and how he met his wife there, and that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's fun. I don't mean to say that it's bad to have this in collected edition, but I just wanted to point out the fun stuff of it. Also,
sometimes they
each
do
one
miss
has
out.
a backup story.
Oh wow.
No, this last one does not have a backup story, but each one has a little backup, like 1 or 2 page thing that he did. Or do they? Maybe only 2 of them do. Come on. Yeah, the 100 Horrors, number 8. So it must have been ongoing in various comics he did. Let's see, this one has... Oh, come on. I know there was another one in here. Anyway, so there's a lot of back matter kind of things.
Yeah.
So they were nice packages, and I'm sad this kind of era of Legend comics is gone.
Because the first appearance...
There's some real watercolors, I'm sure.
First color appearance of Hellboy is in Legends reprints as well. So.
Right. Yeah, so Hellboy was just coming out. It was an exciting time at Dark Horse Comics.
Yeah.
Okay. Said my piece on that. And thanks for your feedback on Concrete. I'm going to have to go look for some of the earlier trades.
Have a look
at
or whatever you can find on that one, because I think it's much more worth it. It's like, even the paper, I don't know, of the comic book, that one looks very sleek, and the ones I have is like less slick and stuff like that, and that era of comic books. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's still story quite good as well. So, yeah. I think we're done. I think 3 hours is good enough, Chad.
3 hours and 10 minutes.
Somebody needs to really go sleep.
That's okay.
Make sure that he's a bit woken up tomorrow or today for him. So thank you very much for all of you. Thank you, Comic Crack in the chat. You're still here with us in spirit. Hopefully you'll get better. And all of you guys who came through, like Scott Connor, Ragamuffin, of course, and then earlier people like Paul. I can't lie to you. Yeah, Fortrelli, Comic Board, Jackie even showed up for a bit. Paolo Costa was here. So, thank you very much.
The Ragamuffin, of course, who we have to thank every time, really, because he annotates our videos after the fact, which is amazing.
Which is crazy. Thank you very much.
No, it's not crazy. Keep doing it.
Well done. Sorry, thumbs up. Anyway, so thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you. I don't know who will be doing. I think it's Comic Cracks next, I think.
Yeah, and sadly, I won't be here next week. We have to go to an open house at an all-girls high school and see if we're interested in it.
Oh, serious stuff. Children.
Well, thank you very much. It was great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. If you want to join us again, if you don't want to sleep, please let us know. We'll get you here.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
We'll keep you awake and keep you interested.
Yeah, I may not be able to do 3 a.m. every time, but I'll definitely want to join for at least, the first hour or hour and a half or something.
I wonder if we could start even another hour earlier. I could. I don't know how it works for yours.
Yeah, I do. I think I'm okay. I'm very open to that. To this chat.
And we got to figure out a way to get Earl Grey back.
Yeah, we have to convince him.
We all
like
have
maybe
to learn German.
Yeah.
exactly. Well, no, it's just generally. I mean, it's for me. It's I mean, and Earl Grey knows because I keep talking about it. But I'm a big fan, and his channel and his work was very
And I'm a
important
fan
to
of
me.
your channel.
Well,
I'm a
it
fan.
was just like and then for a long time, when I would watch his videos, I would feel like, okay, this is good stuff. I'm happy to see stuff like this on YouTube. It was very different and all that stuff. So when Earl Grey sent a comment on one of my videos, I was like, it's like I had a very a fanboy moment. But I did find everybody else's channels also from Earl Grey's, because I would watch his videos and I would see the commentary. And it was such a great community in the conversation in there that I just started clicking on people's names and coming to their channels to watch, to watch their stuff. So it's just, personally, it's
loves
fantastic
Earl
to
Grey.
be here and part
Yeah.
of this.
Now we're gonna lose the subscribers just because Earl Grey is not gonna appear. So thank you.
Look at that. I mean, that
We'll see who's really
guilt-
cool and
guilt
who isn't.
inducing.
Who
But
shows
but,
up.
but
and who doesn't.
actually, I always thought Sleepy Reader is all over in almost each and every chat, commenting on each time when I discovered some new channel. Damien was already there and
Yeah,
commenting.
it's already like
and-
typing.
yeah.
Already there.
Yeah. I don't know how you find people, but it seems to be every single time.
I think I'm slowing down on that. I now find people talking about channels I've never heard of. But for a long time,
really?
I was kind of the guy finding all the channels.
Mm.
Yeah, it used to be very easy in YouTube. Now it's a job and a half to do that kind of thing. So, anyways, we will say goodbye now for sure. All right, bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.